Wimbo up, a 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 wimbo up.
Every guest now has to do the lead vocals on that.
There you go. That's the starting point. Wimbo up.
Yeah.
Let me get a couple more nudes in me and we'll be good.
You know what I don't have? Actually, I can get it.
What's
Is any of those questions?
Oh,
I got it.
Yeah, you
I
can
got
pull
it.
up. No,
We
go
got
on
it.
here because then you can see the results.
Oh, there we go.
Actually, I should just give you the password to the Instagram.
Probably.
That would work.
Oh yeah, I gotta sign in for you.
For later, or if we want to get some icebreakers rolling.
Actually, we could.
There we go.
We could do that.
get to
So
know
you
Eddie a little bit.
Start with that.
Sure.
Steve's Louise ask a question.
Steez Louise.
Okay, so I think if you
Legend.
go, I don't know how to work Instagram, so you can figure that out.
I feel like Steez Louise and at BradMX81 are they're very into the scene.
Oh yeah,
you know?
is he
Brad
that
Gilbert.
into it?
I feel like he's pretty into it. Every once in a while, he surfaces big MX radio.
Big MX radio. He's got a big following.
Yeah, he worked hard at it.
Brad
man, for a long
who's
time.
Brad MX?
He's some guy from Manitoba.
Yeah, Winnipeg area.
Oh, like the big MX dude?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's Brad? It's like Gerhardt.
Gebhardt. He's
Yeah,
creepy
something
though. He's creepy. He was like hitting on Dom when we were at the races together. I was like, he's like asking her to come have a shower with him. I'm like,
What
Weird
moto
dude.
industry dude isn't kind of creepy?
Yeah, that's true.
If we really want to be
That's
honest
true.
about it.
all right, should we plug our merch or should we just not
Yeah, plug it in.
plug the
Yeah.
merch?
You got to plug the merch.
Put it on Chris. He's wearing the merch.
Our merch guy.
Merch guy. If anyone wants to buy a shirt, we're putting them up. Shirts are going up for sale.
Toques.
Toques aren't for sale yet, but you can slide into the DMs and let us know if you want a toque, and we can hook it up. Pre-order the toques and the hats.
Heck yeah.
A head sock.
Yeah, get it on Kaelin. Keelan's wearing the toque. This guy's
When you live in Canada, it's just essential, right? You wear a toque 9 months out of the year and a hat the other 3.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Unless it's above 30 degrees, you're still wearing a toque.
Pretty much here. Yeah, it's 20 degrees, wind sideways, thunderstorm, hail. That's how we live.
Yeah, no shit. Especially here, it's so freaking windy here all the time.
So what I say in Edmonton, I'm like, well, we don't have mountains, but we got wind.
Is it that bad there
the
too?
wind for like 2 hours straight. So
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Dylan. This is good. I don't think I've actually seen you since the wedding. Has it been that long?
it's probably been that long. Yeah, I've been all over the map a little bit, pipelining, went down to California over Christmas, and then this spring I've just been full moto coach, track builder, mechanic, kind of just a full enthusiast.
Living the dream.
Pretty much, yeah. Like actually living the dream, not saying that
Yeah.
sarcastically, like I hate my life, but no, like actually living the dream.
Like that's a sweet gig.
yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
we
stoked
heard
on it.
you got that lined up. How'd that come about?
So it was actually when I was working at KTM. I did a motocross school at the Hinton motocross track with riders, and this family came out, the Keelers, and I taught all of them at the first clinic that I did out there, and they enjoyed it. And then last year I was doing some one-on-one sessions with them when I had time, but obviously with KTM I was pretty much working all day, 365 with them all the time, so I didn't really have a lot of downtime to get out and do a lot of one-on-one training, but we still got a little bit of it done last year and helped them out at some races. And then just this year they were interested and want to take advantage of it, and had the opportunity to build a bunch of tracks on their property out in Edson and just really try to develop everything from square one that you would really need to develop somebody into being a professional racer down the road. So we've just been working on that, and it's super fun. There's not a lot of expectations, and we just enjoy the process and dirt bikes and good community and family and support. So that's what it's kind of what I got going on, and couldn't be more grateful for that opportunity.
Yeah, that's cool. And you were gonna go down to California too in the spring, right?
Yeah, I
Until
was.
the
So I
COVID?
was all packed up to leave the next day, and they closed the borders down. I believe it was like Thursday, and I was supposed to leave Friday to go down there. And I had everything packed, and then they closed the borders and canceled all international flights. So that was pretty much the end of California. And when you wait around all winter, kind of like twiddling your fingers and thumbs, getting ready to go down there and get everything started, and then it all folds right before you're about to go, it's a bummer for sure when you have all those plans and everything mapped out for the year, and then it just gets flipped and basically sumo slammed on its head, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, that's everyone though this year. I think like we had the same thing. We got our California trip cut like 4 weeks short. We're gonna be down there for a while, but
yeah, I seen you guys trying to do your best with it though. Riding corner tracks, and it looked really difficult. And obviously, I have a lot of friends and connections in California, and just talking to everybody. And you guys look like you made the best of it down there, which is good, right? That's not always the easiest thing to do. And we had a late winter here, so it's good that you guys snuck down before the border closed and made the best of that.
Yeah, I think we were there for like 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. I think we rode the track, went to an actual paid to go to a track twice. And they closed everything down. We rode mostly corner tracks, but I had so much fun. It was good.
Yeah, it was awesome till basically the rain stopped.
Yeah. Then it got dry.
Yeah, same thing over Christmas when I was down there for 2 weeks. It was just seemed like every other day it was kind of raining. Like the first week it was like jeans, sweater, rain jacket every single day, which is kind of foreign really when you're in California, right? You're used to sometimes you get the cold mornings, but overall it's just been a weird year, 2020 coming through, and kind of keeping everybody on their toes, right? Not be complacent, no routine, and everybody's just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, we're in the what's that show, The Upside Down.
Oh yeah, the
Stranger
Upside Down.
Things. We're in the Upside Down right now.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Everything's
that's a good way to
backwards.
sum it up.
Does everyone else have sound right now?
Yeah, nothing, J-Rod.
I just stepped on my thing and it stopped.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear anybody.
You can't hear anybody?
Check that connection, just that splitter. I might have pulled on it.
You there?
The bubblies make me burp.
Yeah, that's the problem with drinking the bubblies. I'm wanting to burp. I can't hear anything.
No bubbly here, just nudes, but that just makes me want to talk shit.
Can you plug yours? Give me yours and plug yours right into the splitter because you have long enough cord, right? Hello? Oh, I still got nothing.
Well, you hear you, clear.
Oh, I got it. Good.
There we go. Good. Back on board.
Got a loose connection.
Loose connection.
Keep everything loose around here, right? That's the way it is.
We're a loose running machine over here.
We'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah.
Just like every day.
Every day.
Figure it out as we go.
Day by day. Wicked. So what's been up with you, J-Rod? It's been, you guys said, about a month since your last podcast. So how things been training wise? And then Rockstar Triple Crown Series released their 5 rounds, 3 moto format that they're trying to execute on the East Coast this year. Canadian Nationals all in Ontario, one round in Quebec. Yeah. But I get it. It's good for them. For sure. I mean, I'm not going to bag on it, right? It's tough times.
Yeah, they're doing what they can.
Races, so.
Can't really bag on them too hard.
No, if you do, you're just pretty narrow-minded.
Or negative Nancy. You're just looking for something to bitch at. But yeah, things have been good. It's been I feel like me and Kaelin have been riding together quite a bit. It's been going pretty good up until this week. I feel like I kind of got in a little slump and I don't know, just kind of got to regroup. But it's good having Kaelin. We're riding together all the time, and it's good to have him there to keep each other accountable. And some days, it's hard to really gauge when you have a really off day when you're just riding by yourself. Usually me and Kaelin go riding out together, and we're motoing down, and we can kind of gauge off each other. But this last couple days riding, just kind of, I've been a little bit off, and I guess that kind of just shows you hey, I'm actually off. If I was just riding by myself, you might not really pick up on it as much. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of good to have him there.
What if I'm on?
Maybe you're just on. Maybe you're just really on.
I'm super on.
He's on. You're overreaching, a little burnt on the other end, trying to recap.
Maybe my clutch is slipping a little bit.
Yeah, and, just deflating your confidence out there, just getting worked
a little bit. But it's still good. Just to have that, and then you kind of just if he's making step forwards and I'm not, then still that shows me that I'm lacking in some areas, and I got stuff to pick up on.
I think it's key when it comes to training, right, to have that partner to hold you accountable and put forth a good effort, because you're not always expected to be on every single day, right?
Yeah.
That's just an unrealistic expectation that you're going to have as an athlete. You're just setting yourself up for failure with that mindset, where when you guys go out together, it's good and you can pull the best out of each other, provided the relationship between trainers and riding together is key, right? You got to have each other's best interest and really trying to put each other's best foot forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You got to trust that other person too
Yeah.
when you're out doing your motos, right? That they actually care and want your best interest just as much. I think that's super key. And I think you see that in a lot of like training and relationships, especially in the US. You know, you got Tomac and J Mart, and then there's the Goat Farm, and then you got Alden Baker and all those guys. And then at Baker's, it's like there's a separate crew now. So you got Dino and the Lawrences, and everybody's kind of got their clique, right? To hold themselves kind of accountable. And I think you get more out of your training and have more fun that way, because nothing worse than going and doing a 30+2 by yourself and looking at the lap times every lap you come around and no one's really there to keep you pushing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's so true what you said too about like having that trust in that other person, because it's like if you don't have that right kind of like mesh with the other guy, it can almost like kind of hinder you or not really like help you grow from it.
Yeah, I think sometimes people have a little bit of a negative intent if they feel like someone's, you know, out for themselves or not being as supportive of you as you are of them. And then there's a resentment involved in it. And then it's not exactly the best experience as far as training goes, right? You're not really pulling that 100% out of each other because you're questioning the other person.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like I've been in that situation before, so maybe that's why I bring it up when I was racing and against some of my other competitors and stuff, and they were really focused on their own program, and I was always about just trying to make everybody better, right? Because you're online, there's 42 guys. I'm not worried about my training partner during the moto. Like, we're going to be the best that we're going to be when the gate drops. So I think that's just really important on your Monday to Friday, is to trust your circle and to not have any doubts in your program and what you're doing, because then you come in that much more confident on race day.
Yeah, totally agree.
But
yeah, it's like the first time I've had like a real training. Like we rode together in the past, but it's like we're always going to the track and like we're getting there at different times. But now that we're like going riding together and like doing our motos together, it's actually been really good. Like,
well, you guys when did you guys start riding together? When's the first time that you guys raced or rode together growing up?
Oh, growing up, 2008, 7.
No, way before that.
Oh, yeah, because you're on the 150. 2005.
Damn, I don't know.
So we're looking at 15 years plus, essentially. You guys have been riding together and seeing each other at the track and been friends and everything. But now, was this the first year you guys have officially been like planning your training together? Like, hey, what's the program for today? What are we doing? What are we going to execute?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, it's been good too.
Yeah. You really need that. And it's tough in this sport too, right? Like, a lot of the time you have to travel and go stay with somebody else and able to do that, because there's not just hundreds of professional motocross racers in Canada all over in every city, right? So sometimes you got to travel and go stay at somebody else's house. So that's nice that you guys have that luxury to both commute and meet up at local tracks to get that done.
Yeah, it's been nice
for sure. Somebody's grumpy.
Yeah. Heavy feet.
No, it's like the floor is. It's like
it's hollow. There's no ceiling.
Working on the new studio.
Yeah. That comes after everybody orders new swag and product.
New
right?
merch.
Lots
Get
of
that
new
merch
Studio
so we can build the
upgrades.
new studio.
Yeah.
Studio upgrades.
Hit the merch button
We'll put a button on the YouTube.
down low.
Put a link.
hit it right there.
There you go.
Absolutely.
All right. How about you, Chris? What's been going on?
Oh, we've been pretty steady at work, and we're probably about to get a whole lot busier with this nasty storm that ripped through last night. But no, everything's been pretty good. We've been trying to get out for some jet skis, which have been enjoyable.
That's
but
been fun.
of course, those things never run consistently, so we've had our struggles and battles so far.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the new dog's been a real treat. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, our first run on the jet skis did not go good.
It was satisfactory, I think.
we boosted Chris's ski because the battery wasn't holding the charge, and then he just rode it for like 45 minutes.
Just dedicated moto. I'm burning a tank and then I'm done. That's it.
Anytime I crashed, it was like hold the throttle wide open and just drag behind it.
Just Julian Cerny did it. You got the thing running, show up,
yeah.
get your moto in. I'm done.
That was it.
Yeah, and then Kaelin's ski didn't run. The only one that ran consistently is the trusty old cut it out.
That thing's just solid.
Oh, she's been a solid. Even ran the thing out of oil one time.
Is that the old 650?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that thing's bulletproof.
we ran it out of oil out at Kook. I think you might have even been there.
That could have been, was that the wolf suit time?
I don't know. I've been on the wolf suit quite a few times.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
The wolf suit comes to Kookanoos on every trip.
It's oil injected, so we ran it out of oil. Instead of mixing gas, you just put oil and then gas. And so I ran it out of oil. And then we squeaked it, but then we put a new piston rings in it. She runs great. Like she's still just such a. I paid it like $900 for that ski. Probably the best $900 I ever spent in my life.
I regret selling the 550 that I had. I bought it for $150 in California from some guy in the Army down in San Diego. Brought it home, put a new piston kit in it, and then I ended up selling it for $1,600. And I went dumpster diving at HydroTurf and got all the leftovers that were cut in the dumpsters. Nice. Grabbed all that, stuck it on there, got some fiberglass, polished it up like the polish that you can get for it, and I ended up selling it for $1,600. So it's kind of hard to turn that down, right?
Well, you can do that though. Like I don't know if there's as many now, but back when we were buying all these skis in the States, I bought that one that Chris has for $150. Yeah. It's a 440. It's fun though, but
it's great.
We just brought it back, and I just like, hey Chris, you want to take this ski? If you want to get her running, we can take her.
Yeah, the turnaround on skis in Canada is unreal.
Yeah, because stand-ups are hard to find. And Yamaha Canada
south.
doesn't even import new Superjets. If you want a new Superjet, you have to buy it from the States, or the dealer has to import it through the U.S.
Yeah,
so
special order.
It's kind of like this foreign thing that you get up here that's kind of unique. And I think as moto guys, riding a sit-down jet ski's pretty lame.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to do it. It'd be about the same as going out quadding on a Saturday.
So
we just don't. It just doesn't happen. Yeah. So for us, I think the stand-ups are a pretty good way of life after the motos to go cool off.
I don't know. I rode one of those Sparks.
Yeah.
Chris had one of those. Those things are actually pretty fun.
Yeah, I rode one of those out at Michigan, and there's a storm that was rolling in and massive waves. So fun. Just sending it off the waves on one of those.
A little more modern, a little more. It's got a good feel to it, probably versus the
they're
old.
They're much smaller too. They're pretty small.
Oh, nimble.
Yeah, they're gnarly. They rip too.
Yeah, that's sick.
It's fun. I remember riding Chris's. I would just like go as fast as I could, and then I just crank it as hard as I could. And I just like a double donut. It's pretty cool. On Chris Perzan's. He used to have a Spark.
Oh my god.
Maybe it wasn't. Is that the one that like the seat folds down, right?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's a Spark.
Either way, Perzan is the jet ski guy in the whole Calgary area. Like when we think of stand-up jet ski champions, we think of Chris Perzan. He's the legend of the stand-ups for sure.
Yeah.
We've all made our fame in life in the motocross industry, and I use fame sarcastically, so don't bag on us for that. And Chris is definitely the jet ski guy.
We might be hearing from Chris on that comment.
Oh, it's all good. He's
propping him up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh shit. A little bubbly on the.
Yeah.
All right, you've been mountain biking and road biking. What have you been doing?
So to be completely honest, I've been a little lazy lately, a little complacent. Just like I said, it's a lot going on with the tracks and the training and stuff. So usually if I get I've been getting up at 5:30 in the morning and wheels rolling at 6 and try to get an hour and a half to 2 hours in on the road or gravel bike.
Yeah.
Out in Edson, obviously the roads aren't exactly the best. Like I have to go down the freeway to basically hit any paved side roads. So I've been doing that a little bit, but trying to add in some weightlifting and a couple little things, just keep some base going. And riding, I got a YZ125 2020 from Riverside Motorsports, and that thing's been a riot. Like that brings just fun back into riding dirt bikes for me. And don't tell my surgeon, because I got told distinctly, like, do not touch a dirt bike. Like your knees are completely smoked. But obviously with the pandemic, all the surgeries got pushed off. So it really changed my plans for the year, because I was essentially supposed to have my first surgery was kind of scheduled for around May 15th. And that was a scope and a bone graft on my right knee. And that got pushed back. And at this point, I have no set date to return. All the surgery rooms, they only have 2 rooms open amongst 4 doctors. Mm-hmm. So pretty slow process right now, and I really have no idea when I'll get in, but hopefully sooner than later. Other than that, just some basic fitness, just kind of keeping it up on the side so that it is more enjoyable to go ride dirt bikes when I do get the chance to throw my boots on and gear up and burn some gas.
How many pedal bikes you got? You're always pedaling.
Yeah, right now I got a specialized Roubaix for my road bike, and then a giant TCX kind of converted to gravel.
Nice.
For that, which around in Alberta, like gravel riding is obviously awesome, right? Less traffic, lots of rolling hills, and the gravel is like really good for training because it's got that resistance all the time. It's kind of like a spin bike. As soon as you let off, you just come to a stop.
Yeah,
so
you can't coast.
You got to keep hammering. And then I got my Scott Genius. I love that thing, 940. Just kind of went with the aluminum 29er build, something that I can shred in the bike park, and it's all set up for enduro, so I don't ride it that much when I'm back in Alberta. Obviously, Edmonton, River Valley, biggest descent's about 8 seconds. So I don't go out on that thing a whole lot when I'm back at home. And most recently, I got a dirt jumper, and that thing's been a riot. Like hitting up the pump tracks in Yellowhead County. There's 4 of them built by Velo Solutions, and that's the best interval training I've had. It's so fun. Like you do 20, 30 minutes and you're smoked. That's
Really?
it. Yeah. Hit 190 heart rate every
Really?
time. Oh yeah.
On the
It's-
pump track.
Yeah. Maybe I just suck and I'm holding my breath, but either way, it's a good little workout, and I like to get that done after dinner sometimes, and starting to get the manuals and doubles down, so it makes it a little more fun.
Did you find a little bit more love in pedaling after you had the issue with your knee and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I really like suffering personally. Like I really enjoy those long rides where you kind of shell yourself and it takes a couple days to recover from, and you know, you're 3 hours deep and you're cramping up or whatever it may be. Like I really enjoy that process of it, and a lot less injuries involved with cycling. You can keep going with it and keep going and going and going. And it seems like every time I touch a dirt bike, something's sore. Like if I go ride, it's a knee, it's an ankle, it's ribs in my back, a wrist, a shoulder. I'm just blown out from all those years of racing. So the cycling thing is a lot more consistent and a lot less time consuming, right? Like you go jump on your road bike and you don't need to prep it or go anywhere. You just leave right from the house. So that 2-hour workout is 2.5 hours total by the time you gear up, stretch and whatnot, where you guys know the process of going to ride motocross and get an hour on the bike. That's, 6 hours of load up, travel, bike work, prep it for the next time, etc. So it's a big process, where the cycling thing's a lot easier on your day-to-day life.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing like 3 hours of driving just to do like an hour and a half of riding.
Yeah, it's a whole day, right? So like it's nice that I can just get up at 5:30 and be wheels rolling at 6. Although living in Edmonton and northern Alberta, it's like 0 degrees still, even though it's June and July. So that part kind of sucks, getting up and it's still cold out and you don't really get to ride in your shorts and t-shirt, but whatever. We make the best of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the shitty part about moto is like you spend 3-4 hours working on your bike for like an hour and a half of riding, and then like mountain biking, it's quick little spray with the hose and it's clean, right?
Yeah, you clean your chain, lube it up, wipe it off, bike's good to go. Next time, maybe check tire pressure, probably not. Just go ride it.
Every third or fourth ride.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, it looks a little soft. Maybe we'll pump that up a bit. We're good. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, different worlds, but very similar, right?
Yeah, it's nice. I think just being on 2 wheels in general, like I'm just happier when I can get out on 2 wheels and get that fresh air, get away from everything. And sometimes music, sometimes nothing, sometimes just pulp. You never really know what the mood is when you're on the pedals, but definitely it's just a nice escape to get away from everything.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing some like cross country races if we didn't go racing this year.
Yeah, well, prepare to suffer. You want to talk about suffering from that? You basically, if you're not coughing up blood after a race, you really need to put forth a good effort. It's tough. There's a Tuesday night series usually in Edmonton, and I did a handful of them. And
is that like on the grass?
Yeah, like they have some basic trails, and then the starting line's obviously a little bit wider. But me and Burton have went tooth and nail on some Tuesday night races before, and just like screaming and yelling at each other. And you lay down afterwards, you feel like you're gonna throw up, and it's just for nothing. Like you get a cookie if you win, but it's a blast, right? I think we all need that in our life to really push ourselves that hard.
That's sick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess, I mean, probably should have done this at the beginning, but probably be a good time for you to kind of tell people about yourselves.
So for those of you who are listening from somewhere else outside of the Canadian moto world, 27 years old, started riding dirt bikes when I was 3, racing when I was 4. Grew up only 45 minutes from Walton, which is our Canadian national. Like when you think of motocross in Canada, you think of Walton, right? So I kind of grew up in the scene, and it's all I've ever done. Homeschooled after grade 9, turned pro in end of 2009. And after that, just shorter pro career than amateur, I would say. Just a lot of injuries and lack of money and whatnot kind of was a bit of the issue there. And I think I made some pretty poor choices myself as well, just with lack of education on the sport. But in 2015 was pretty much the end of it. I was riding for Devil's Lake at the time, and I blew my left ACL, MCL out in a photo shoot going first gear. And that was pretty much the end of it because I had no ACL in my right knee at the time. And I'm like, okay, now I can't turn right or left. And the recovery time to get 2 knee surgeries and whatnot is obviously really long. So at that point, I kind of bowed out, and I do have regrets over that. I wish I would have stayed to it a little bit longer. I think I was kind of at the pinnacle of what I could do for sure, and never really got to showcase or execute that at a Canadian National or any other events, which is a bit of a bummer, but that's life, right? Sometimes we don't always get the way you want it. So that's a little bit of the backstory on it. Like I said, 27 now, working full-time as a trainer, coach, and track builder, got experience running equipment and whatnot. So it's just kind of led me to where I'm at now, and been really spoiled with the people in my day-to-day life now. So maybe that's just karma coming full circle.
You're a pretty decorated, well, I guess, is that the right word? Like, you're a pretty successful amateur, and yeah, because you won the boot. And
you had a pretty, like, you had a good pro career too. Like, maybe you didn't achieve everything you wanted to, but you still did pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. As an amateur, I think like growing up only 45 minutes from Walton made it very comfortable for me and easy to execute at the national. Like it just felt like any other race for me. So for us winning, I won 7 Walton titles. When it was all said and done with, the Bronze Boot and the Rick Joseph Award and the ECAN, I never ended up coming out to Raymond. Did Loretta Lynn's a couple times, won a Loretta Lynn's regional on 50s, and coming through the ranks, I was racing against guys like Malcolm Stewart, Kyle Regal, Weston Pike, and in that whole scene. So Dino was in there too, although he was usually kind of half a track ahead of me, so I didn't really see him a whole lot. But that was kind of the whole scene coming through the amateur ranks, and then turned pro in 2009, and just seemed like injury after injury after injury. And as you guys know, it takes a lot of money to succeed at a professional level with the time spent down south and bikes and just having a good quality bike too, right? And I didn't know anything about setting bikes up when I was younger. I just kind of went with what was handed to me and tried to make it work the best that I could. So I think that was a bit of an issue. I mean, riding Suzukis in 2010 and 11 probably wasn't the smartest idea. And but switching over at the end of it to Yamahas was always really good with the Devil's Lake guys. They gave me some pretty good opportunities that I can't shy away from that, because I was pretty much over it at the end of 2013 from injuries, and I was just pipelining in the winter and working away, and then Trevor kind of called me and offered me a deal, so that's what got me back in 14 and then into 15, and then followed by the injury during the photo shoot. And then a couple races since then too, right? I've kind of dabbled and came back a little bit here and there. And what was it, 2016, I did the first 3 nationals in MX2. And then last summer, I just raced Calgary.
And you were doing good too, like top 5 by the end of it, right?
At the end of it, I was 4th in points. And everyone's like, you going east? And I'm like, I'm working 9 to 5 at the dealership at the service counter. Like, I don't know, I got to do some service riding. Yeah, I got a $16 an hour job I got to tend to. So, I think for me, like, it was just stress-free at that point, right? Like, I didn't have anything to prove. I just wanted to go out and ride. And in 16, I would barely rode. I changed the oil Saturday, the day before the national, and it raced it with stock sprockets and tires and everything, just grips and graphics and some suspension, and that was it.
Yeah, I remember that. That was actually pretty sick.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
I have no idea how I pulled that off, to be completely honest with you. Like, I didn't prep at all. I just kind of went out there and rode and did my thing. And in the second moto at Kamloops, the bike actually sucked so much sand it would barely jump anything on the last 2 laps. And Talon LaFontaine was right in front of me. And I remember just like pinning it, and I'm like, this thing's going to blow up. Like, I got to take it easy. And he was right in front of me for 6th in the moto, and took it apart in the air boots, just full of sand. Because the old style KTM airbox used to just suck sand in that one spot on the filter. And it was super dry. I don't know if you guys remember that at Kamloops that day. It was like 37 degrees.
Yeah.
And for any US listeners, that's well into the hundreds, I believe. And it was a hot day. So I don't know, it's fun, right? Riding dirt bikes, it's all I've ever known. So just keep on keeping on with that.
Yeah, I guess it's not like you like forget how to ride, especially like your racecraft too. Like, you know how to race. You've raced your whole life and you spent this much time. It's not like just because you're underprepared, maybe you can't do well. It's kind of like removing the pressure and you're just going out there and riding kind of mindlessly. It's almost sometimes better. It's better that way.
I think it is, honestly. Looking back at my racing, I think I tried so hard when I was involved in it, right? Like, I was almost a little bit of a hypochondriac, like worried about every little thing and
putting a lot of pressure on yourself too.
Yeah, the pressure on myself. If I had a bad day of training or riding, I would take that into the next day because I cared way too much. Like, I was so passionate about it. And as soon as I distanced myself from racing, after I stepped away from it, and then I started to become a student of the sport, I feel like, and that's where the coaching thing has come in. And I watch everybody and watch how they set up their bikes, watch their line choice, and kind of you can see certain riders spin their tracks and just do the same thing year after year. And you see other guys who are willing to learn and they change teams and they're growing. And like Pettis would be a perfect example of that. I feel like JP, when he was working with Erky, really took it back and started working on his rolling speed through the corners, and he coasts into the corners and gets on the gas early. And ever since he started doing that is when Pettis went from being kind of that 5th place guy to that winning speed guy. So I've really enjoyed stepping away from the sport, not being so immersed in my own racing and just being able to watch and learn from everybody around me. And also, when I quit racing, I was spending a lot of time in California and hanging out with Chris Kiefer at that time, and I learned a lot from him. Like, Chris really, I owe him a lot. He took me under his wing as far as testing goes and bike setup, and really helped me get my bike set up for 2015. And after that, I was just hanging out down there and doing some durability stuff with him and hanging out with the dirt rider guys. And I think that's a time in my my motocross career that's really underrated, but I learned a lot about the industry outside of just racing dirt bikes. Absolutely.
Cool.
So probably almost like that saying, it's like, I wish I knew then what I know now. It's just like you kind of kicking yourself in the ass with it a bit, hey?
Yeah, I think about that every day. I'm like, man, if my knees were good and I wanted to come back and what I know about my diet and nutrition. Like, when I raced, I used to take in like a whey protein shake and eggs for breakfast. Find out after I'm done racing that I'm highly sensitive to eggs and dairy. Like, no wonder I used to get rumble guts so bad where I would have diarrhea for 2 days after a race. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's the dairy first thing in the morning, like pounding back a protein shake with milk and then go out and race motos when you're sensitive to it. Terrible idea. But I didn't know any better, right? I just was like, oh, this is the protein that I need for the day. And I learned a lot about myself that way, bike setup. And then also the 2.5 years I worked at KTM Canada after racing really let me understand the marketing and the sales side of the sport and really see everything on the backside and how it's all funded and how to gain sponsorship and what you need to do, where I think I was pretty lost as a racer. Like, no one really took me under their wing to show me that. And I definitely burned some bridges just out of uneducation when it came to how to market myself, as I was just a dirt bike kid, right? I just knew that winning was good, and outside of that, I didn't really have anything else to offer. I just wanted to win.
Well, that's like the whole thing. I think we've talked about it a little bit on this podcast before, but it's like when you're racing, you're just so immersed in the racing, and all you care about is your riding and this. And there's so many other things that contribute to having a successful career. It's like you don't really, everything gets overlooked because you're just so focused on just the riding and the training or whatever.
And that's just the tip of it, right? As you guys know, with the podcast and the other things that you guys are doing now with Carlson Racing and whatnot, like that's literally just a tip of the iceberg anymore, as we see social media ambassadors getting more sponsorship than racers.
Yeah.
Because of their followers and their connection and the fact that they're commenting to them and they're getting people engaged in it, and therefore getting people into the dealerships to buy the bikes, to buy the product. Where sometimes racing, and when we're in 8th or 9th place, unfortunately that doesn't always sell bikes. No. Right? And that's a big investment for them, where an ambassador, they can give them a hat, a jacket, a t-shirt, backpack, and some clothes, and they post it up everywhere, and it gets seen by thousands of people, versus sometimes what we have to offer is difficult. But at the end of the day, people buy dirt bikes to race them. Like that's what we do. So that's really the grassroots of the sport and where it comes from. So it is key. And I think it's important the manufacturers don't forget that either.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like the racer, or like the guy winning the races is like the flagship guy for the brand. But then it's, like you're saying, like the ambassadors and the people marketing are like underneath that guy that are doing the groundwork, kind of making it happen beneath that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're not the guy winning, you're basically going through dealer support, right? So what a manufacturer is looking for is, okay, we have this guy who's a top 10 pro. He's out of Calgary, but we want him to sell bikes to the dealers in Calgary. We want him to help sell for the Cycle Works, for the Blackfoots, for what was, I believe, Bow Cycle and some of the other dealerships, right? So that's really what the manufacturers are looking for. And that's something that I just never understood, right? I'm like, well, I want to go race down in the States. Well, clearly Yamaha Canada giving me a bike to go race in Florida does them nothing.
Yeah.
So those are things that I really didn't understand. And to really, what I think finished my support with Yamaha corporately was I posted a picture of a Wiseco piston that cracked in half and seized in my motor on Instagram, and I was like 17 years old at the time. I had no idea what that was a negative thing, and I put right in there that it was a Wiseco thing issue, and but still come to find out a couple of years later that the marketing people at Yamaha were the ones that were very upset with that, and that's why they didn't offer me a deal for the next year. And at no point did anybody ever pull me aside and explain that to me, and I'm just a 17-year-old kid trying to put my best foot forward, and I had no idea. So I wish that our industry was a little bit more helpful. Like, we're small, there's only so much of us here, so let's get the best that we can out of each other and try and help these riders and help everybody figure out what's going to be best for them, instead of just blackballing them and pushing them to the curb, because essentially there's only so many racers in this country, right? And you can push them aside if you want, but you're going to run out of guys, right? And
that's a good point.
That's one thing I wish, because I've seen it happen time and time again. And even when I was at KTM, there's some stories of some mini parents yelling at other kids and screaming at parents and being a little reckless, as we know sometimes happens in sports, and any sport, and it happens in ours just as much. And that kid gets blackballed for it, and it had nothing to do with the kid. It's just the parents. And then no one will reach out to that family and explain to them what they did. So therefore, said rider is already behind the 8 ball before he even is really needs sponsorship. So I think communication is key. Then that's what we need to do to help grow the sport in general with everybody, right? We're all trying to make manufacturers want to sell more bikes. We want more support. We want to race more, and we want to do this as a job. So I think if we all work together collectively, it can lead to good things. And instead of this whole riders versus manufacturers that we get a little bit with the race teams, right? We end up resenting them if we feel like they're not sponsoring enough, or they promised us X and we only got Y. I think that communication as to why these things are happening would be really key, and taking that time to explain to the riders.
Well, yeah, there's definitely a huge disconnect in our sport with that, for sure.
Absolutely. Do you not feel like sometimes you're kind of searching, like, okay, what can I do to help out more? Like, what am I really going to do? I know this Instagram and the graphics and trying to get people into the dealership helps, but what else can I really do, right? I don't have a marketing degree. I'm a rider. I'm a racer. So that's what I know, but what can I do? And I think that's where it should be a little bit on people to try and just walk us along and make that investment time-wise into the riders, and then they might see that return investment in sales, which is always the goal, right? So,
yeah, and that's the tough road along the way, is like there's nobody guiding us along, and you just kind of have to figure it out on your own.
Absolutely. And if you could justify the support that you had, if you could go, hey, I did this and, X amount of people went into international motorsports this year and purchased Husqvarnas, that would be something that would be great. That if you could have some sort of, code or card or something like that, where it's trackable, and then they can go, you know what, this rider really came through for us this year, and you get that out of it. So I think it needs to be worked together a little bit more collectively versus sending in a resume and like, hey, I'm looking for X amount of support, and they don't really tell you what they want in return. Like, hey, our goal is to hit X amount of market sales or unit sales in your area. So there is a disconnect, and I've seen that as a racer and as working in the marketing department as an event specialist at KTM Canada. So I really value that time that I had there, because I think it made me just a better human in general. That really made me understand the sport and just as a whole picture, instead of just I'm a racer. So,
well, it's also tough too, like I guess on the racer side of it, or the racers side of things, where I know I felt this way in the past, where it's like I don't want to do that work when I feel like I'm not getting what I feel I deserve. But that's also a bit of entitlement for just being young and immature. But with that attitude, it just kind of makes it hard to like work together on both ends. Like there's definitely some issues on the manufacturer side, but there's also like huge issues with racers on that end too, where like when you're young, you're 14, 15, 16, 17, and you just feel entitled to all these things, and you think things should be a certain way. And kind of like what you're saying, you're the racer, and you think you deserve these things, and it just doesn't go the way you expected, and it usually blows up in your face.
I think any athlete who's really dedicating himself and putting that much into it, I think the people working that 9-to-5 job, they're only really putting 50 to 60% of their real effort into that job, because it's just a regular job. We're a racer. This is everything. This is our 100%, right? We're waking up, we're eating our meals, we're doing everything we can. So we get a little emotional about it. And I think athletes in general at any level play the victim card, right? It's a self-defense mechanism that we had as to, this person isn't providing me with this much product, so screw them. When really it's like, maybe they're doing that because I did something, but we play the victim card on it a little bit that way. Like, I got knocked out on the start and it's out of my control. Well, what could I have done? Could have got a better start.
Exactly.
Would have had that happen. And I think as athletes, and the people around you tell you that, right? Your parents, your girlfriend, the kids that shooting Instagram videos in California that we see on the side of the track, or whatever it may be, that man friend, like, people want you to be the best that you can. So they're there to kind of protect you. And then you adopt this I'm a victim mentality, right? So if you don't perform, the team offers you less support, less money, etc. And then you resent them and you're like, screw these guys, I'm out of here. And it's really like, maybe it's a little bit of both on this end. So that's the one thing I've really noticed since I've stepped away from racing, is that we do, and this is athletes in general, this isn't just motocross, just athletes in general play the victim card. It's an easy out, and it's a way to keep your confidence high to point the blame on somebody else. And I think there's times where we all need to look in the mirror and be like, I screwed up a little bit on this.
Just trying to
I need to own a little bit of responsibility on this.
Just trying to protect your ego, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you need that as a racer. You need a little bit of that cocky, like, pep in your step. Like, for instance, last year at Calgary National, I started right beside the box, and Tyler Medaglia started inside of me. And he's on a full race motor with a brand new tire, first moto. So I just kind of chuckle. Oh my God, whatever. I got him off the concrete, right? Like, he's just going to spin. He's like 5 foot on a good day, right? So he can barely touch his foot pegs from the seat, nevertheless down to the concrete. So, I get a good drive and jump off the concrete, and then second moto, Tyler goes right beside the box, and I just kind of chuckle. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just take his gate from the first moto, and I go right beside him, and same thing. He's got a brand new tire on again, and I'm like, come on, Tyler, like, you've been racing forever. You should have a blown out tire on to get better traction off the concrete, right? And so in my head, I'm already like, I have him covered. Like, before the gate even drops, before anything happens, in my head, I'm already like, I have him off the first 10 feet, and that's that. And sure enough, like, I didn't even see Tyler's front fender. I'm sure he beat me in the moto because I probably faded like a cheap suit after 15 minutes. But nonetheless, like just things like that, right? That, make a big difference. There's a little bit of that belief, and that's why you need that pep in your step.
Yeah.
Like you got to have that ego when it comes to racing. Like, yeah, I got this guy. He's a chump. I train harder. I'm the man. Like my bike's faster. I can go further. I'm smarter when it comes to line choice. And if you don't believe that going up to the line, then why are you even putting your helmet on? Why'd you even pay the registration fee? Because what's the point? You're just going to go out there and get subpar results. If you don't truly believe that deep in your soul, when you line up on the line and you look to your left and you look to your right, you don't think you got those guys, what are you doing? Yeah. That's what I think. And if you're trying to do it as a professional and make money at it anyways, right?
Would you say that's like a mentality that you harbored like throughout your whole race career? Because I was watching some old like races from 2013, 14, 15 on YouTube the other day, and you were like a badass racer, like had some good racecraft. And
thank you, I appreciate that. I tried to pride myself on being smart on the track all the time, like creative with my line choice and how I rode things. I think as an amateur, 100% I had that like little bit of that pep in my step and that swag, like these guys are chumps, like no one's gonna get me here today. And I think I lost that with all the injuries and stuff. Like 2009, I rode so good. I remember battling with Liam O'Farrell and Kieran Fitzgerald at the ECAN at Sand Elite, like tooth and nail on a bone stock bike. And then Kieran won the national that year. And these were 20-minute motos on an amateur track. So I don't think I understood national days back in 2009, but I always think that the confidence and the skill set was there. It was just a matter of that maturity that needed to come in. And then 2010, 11, 12, it was just like injury after injury after injury. And 13, I dislocated my shoulder at Gopher without even crashing. Like just slip a foot peg, grab a handful of throttle, and it rips my arm out of the socket. So there was a lot of silly things like that happened. But I think when I quit racing, I really understood the importance of believing in yourself, and that you really need that. Like when you go to the line, if I don't truly believe in my deepest core that I'm going to get this whole shot, then it's not going to happen. Like you really have to have that in-depth know of, I've done my work. This is the bike I have. Nothing else matters at this point. The fact that maybe my tire's a little worn out, or at the national this year, I was on a stock bike with stock suspension that had 13 hours on it. Like that's how much I prepped. I believe when I started my bike that morning, it said 13.4 hours. And I didn't care. I was like, whatever, I'm here to race. This is the bike that I have, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Thank God we have a concrete pad where horsepower really doesn't matter to get off the gate and get a jump. And then as the track gets rougher, I'm going to be smarter than the other guys. I'm going to pick smoother lines. I'm going to carry more speed. I'm going to take it easier on myself because we're racing for 25+2. And that, I think I knew that, and I was prepared to leave everything else behind. And I also did 3 demos that week for KTM, and there was forest fires and everything up. Like there was ash all over the bikes. Like I had to wash the whole rig Friday before the national by myself, and the pits is covered in ash and everything else. And I was so tired, I went and got a nap in at like 4 p.m. on Friday before the race. But I just told myself, like, you know what? I don't care. Like I'm, arguing with my parents right now, and this isn't perfect, and the rig's dirty, and I'm tired. And after I'm done this race, I got to rush home and load up more demo bikes and head off to wherever I was going with KTM. But I just said, like, I don't care what's happening today. I shut my phone off. I put it in the drawer. I'm racing. I'm here to be a racer today. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to focus on myself, and I'm going to believe that I can do it, and I'm going to put my best foot forward. And I think it kind of showed. Like I barely rode and ended up going 9-11 for 10th overall, which isn't great, but I also couldn't feel my hands after 15 minutes. So I pretty much just rode around for the last part of the moto. And I think that's just that time away from the sport, right? Where you can really learn, become a student of it, and really learn and study the ins and outs of it, and maybe some of your weaknesses, where when you're so engaged on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to look at yourself from a transparent point of view.
So do you think that, like, from what I hear you say there, it's kind of like, okay, you need a bit of ego to be able to succeed, because you got to believe in yourself and you got to have confidence in yourself. To me, that translates into the real world at any job, any level, anything you do. The building blocks for success are going to get you there. Then you kind of spoke to some adversity on a day and how you chose to kind of be a little bit selfish and respond to that adversity, and that created a bit of success for you that day, right? So it's kind of like that bit of ego, confidence, a little bit of adversity, and if you can respond to that adversity instead of just reacting to it and going, oh, my goggles are garbage, or whatever it may be, that excuse that day, you responded to it by going, okay, improve the situation by put the phone away, put the parents away, whatever it was you did that day helped you succeed.
Absolutely. And I think as a racer, I was really bad with that. Like I was like, when I was at Devil's Lake, like, I don't have a new tire this motor, or my mechanic's not here this weekend, or I was up, late the night before, or whatever the situation may have been, where I think I took that into race day a lot more. And I agree with you on that. Like the ability to go into everyday learning outside of life and believing in yourself that you can do this is super key, because you start a new job, start a new career, you go to school, whatever it may be, it's uncomfortable, right? Like you go into that situation where you really don't know the outcome, but you need to have a certain level of confidence in yourself to really be able to learn, and then be humble with it too. Like, yeah, I went 9-11 for 10th overall, but that doesn't really mean shit. Like, I don't care what I get out of that. I don't care what happens. I don't care that I didn't prep. I just went out and I had a great time riding my dirt bike, and that's all that matters. So I think being able to distance yourself from the sport too is really important. Like having, now that Jared, you're married, and Kaelin, you've been in a relationship for a long time, like you guys obviously understand how nice it is sometimes after a shitty day of racing to just go for a walk with your chick or hang out with your dog. Like life goes on, and you learn that more after the sport, because I think you invest so much into your results that kind of dictates your mood. And you see that again in the US a little bit with those guys, right? Like, who was it? Plessinger, when he had that child, all of a sudden just started killing it in the 250 class. Now, kind of fell on his face when he moved to 450, but that's also something that we see on a regular basis with guys, having a rough transfer to the 450 class. So I think it's super important to have that balance, as much as you want to just put everything you have into racing, every moment, every hour, every little bit of energy. I think that's almost unhealthy a little bit. Like you need to step away and have that balance, and then you're more charged up when you get to the track.
Yeah, I agree. You just got to kind of step back. But I think like with the ego thing, like it's almost, you have to have like a bit of a balance between like having enough confidence and enough ego to really perform your best, but you also have to be humble enough to look and see when you're doing things wrong, right? Like you kind of touched on that before. It's kind of like, yeah, you have to look at both sides, but you have to, like, you can't go one too far one way or too far the other way, or else it's going to hurt you.
Exactly. You need that balance, and that's where having good support around you too, right? Like I watch Supercross now, and you can tell who's going to win by just listening to the guys as they talk in their pre-race interviews or post-race. Like you listen to Christian Craig when he comes up on the podium, the dude doesn't expect to win. He does not expect himself to win. He goes out there and he's like, we're trying to be a top 3. I think I got top 3 speed tonight or whatever. He's got more skill on a bike than anybody out there. But if some sort of adversity happens, the dude just pulls a tear off and pulls off the track.
Yeah.
And then you got a guy like,
it's just an easy out.
Yeah, it's an easy out for him, and not to pick on him, but that's just someone that stands out to me that has that. And obviously I don't know Christian Craig on a personal basis, but this is just what I see as a bystander of the sport. And then you listen to a guy like Austin Faulkner, who gets second, and he's pissed. He goes up there and he's like, didn't qualify very good today, but I feel good about the night show. We got it. Like he has so much confidence, it's just pouring out. It almost comes across as a little ignorant.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's some maturity that can come along with that, as we've seen last weekend when he just like hacks Jet Lawrence off, or Hunter Lawrence, and then Hunter drives into him in the next turn. It's like, dude, you're the fastest qualifier, and you're a bad dude in this class. You don't need to go stir the pot. Like, if anything, you're motivating your competition by doing that. And that's where the ego gets a little out of hand, right? And we've seen that again with riders like Schmoll Schmopson, and where it gets a little out of hand. And then there's other guys like Colton who are super quiet and confident, where he can qualify 7th. And he's like, I don't care. I drank a bottle of wine last night. My wife's hot. My bike's good. Let's go race. And he'll go out and crush it. And that's exactly what Colton was the master of. And look at how many injuries the dude had. Clearly, he believed in himself, because you can't just sign yourself off, fold yourself in half, bad injury after bad injury after injury. And like Colton wore a halo when he was like 14, I believe, for a long time. So I think maybe that's what ingrained it in him at a young age to keep coming back. And that's where you need that quiet ego, but you also need a little bit of that humble approach to it too, because you got too much of an ego, you can fuel your competition's fire with that, right? And it gets misconstrued wrong. Like, I mean, Faulkner's kind of universally hated by a lot of people because he's a little bit of a punk with some of the things that he does. So there's a difference of believing in yourself and being really cocky and arrogant, and believing in yourself and being humble and knowing your capabilities, and, you know, wearing your pride on your sleeve a little bit. Like, yeah, you know, tonight I wasn't the best guy, but we'll get him next week. So I think that mentality is super important in life, right? Like, not every day is going to be perfect. And we've all had those jobs or days on the job outside of racing in life where it doesn't matter what you're doing, you just beat your head against the wall, but you got to get up the next day and come back and try and learn from your shortcomings.
Totally.
Bit of a rant,
No,
you know?
good.
So
that's good.
Like I said, since I've stepped away, I just try to be a student of the sport and try and watch and learn and read up on things, and taking a lot of time to listen to podcasts and read books and try and grow myself, as well as a lot of therapy too. Like, be transparent about that. I have gone to some therapists because it is tough transitioning from racing to real life, and when you kind of lose that drive that you have. So that, I think, brought a lot of awareness in my day-to-day life that would transfer off to being a better racer.
So what's one of the biggest things you've learned after, you know, stopping racing about the sport? And then what's one of the biggest things you've learned about life outside of the sport?
I think the biggest thing I've learned about the sport, I think as far as results go and to develop a rider, is a lot of it's skill. You really need to work on awareness. And I think a lot of the fitness comes off the bike. Like, to get that 35-minute fitness, that's built cycling. Like, riding there's a certain riding toughness that you need to work yourself into every year when you haven't been on the bike. But I think that fitness really comes from years of consecutive strength training, years of consecutive cardio, and really building yourself up to those bases so that you have that longevity to do 35 minutes. I think just doing 30-minute motos or 40-minute motos, just moto after moto after moto, you know, you're not focusing on the little bit of things. And as you turn pro, it's the 10th of a second. It's this corner, it's that corner. You're trying to do, essentially as many laps as you can in that race. So say you have a 35-minute moto and it works out to being 20 laps. You need to do those 20 laps as fast as you possibly can. It doesn't matter how fast you do lap 1. It doesn't matter how fast you do 18. It's how fast you can do that overall time. Mm-hmm. And I think that really comes down to being perfect and hitting your marks and working on those little drills all the time. And I think we lose track of that as pros. We get a little cocky, get a little complacent. We just think, I'm going to go out and do 30 minutes as hard as I can today, where maybe taking it back, getting a little better throttle control, a little better front brake control, a little better technique, a little better bike setup, and working on those small things and not just beating yourself into the ground and replicating a race day twice a week. I think that is a really good way to go about it. It's also a lot more affordable because, as we know, riding just beats the shit out of your bikes and your product, your suspension, your motors. Like, you do a 35-minute moto, that oil's smoked. You're changing your oil that night. So I think that's probably what I've really learned, is the little things, taking a step back from it and shelling yourself off the bike, and then still doing your motos when you're training. Like, don't get me wrong. I think you need to do those days where, you know, you show up and you replicate a race day and you half the time in between your motos. So you do your 15 warm up, your 15 time qualifying, and then you do your 230s, and you half that time in between to shorten the schedule so that your recovery time, you stress your body out a little bit more. But I think outside of that, we need to be doing, like, guys need to be doing figure eights. They need to be doing starts. They need to be doing wheelies, stoppies, testing, and working on these things. And also getting a little bit uncomfortable too, going to race different races, racing, you know, a little bit tired or whatever it may be, going into it with an open mind, facing some adversity, because when you race 18 motos in a year, it's not always going to be perfect. You're going to be sick. You're going to have jet lag. You're going to argue with your chick. This team's going to piss you off, goggle malfunction, whatever it may be. You have to keep a calm head and still execute under that. And we see that with guys like Cooper Webb in the States and whatnot, right? Where they can be sick a little bit, and that's not an excuse. They're still going to go perform. And I think that's something that's super important, that's just perfecting your craft, right? That's being a student to the sport. And when you get sucked in racing, you just kind of get that, like, I want to try harder. And eventually you're just overtraining. You're blowing your bikes out. Your practice bike's got 120 hours and your race bike's got 10, and you jump on the race bike and it feels like this foreign spaceship that you've never rode before. So that's one thing. And then what was the second part of that question, Chris? Sorry.
It was the same question, but just what's like the biggest thing you've learned about outside of racing life?
Day-to-day life.
Yeah.
I would say just that it's the ability to learn. Like, life's going to keep coming at you and you can't control what's going to happen tomorrow. All you can do is just keep trying to learn and grow and make the best of every opportunity that you have. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable and there's going to be sacrifices and things that suck. Like, there's a lot of days where I've worked 14, 16 hours pipelining that I'm just like, what am I doing with my life out here right now? Like, is this really the best that I can be? Is this what I want? So being okay with that in the moment and taking that trade-off for financial gain or whatever it may be, and just constantly be willing to learn and grow. I think that's the one thing that just you can't put a price tag on that in life. Like, I've seen my parents go through 5 or 6 different career changes, so maybe that's what motivates me with that. But the world's always evolving, and 2020 has been pretty weird for everybody. And I think it's a time that we can constantly just be learning and developing. So that's one thing I just try to, when things get tough and confusing and I feel down, I try to look at it as an opportunity to grow. And what am I pulling out of this situation that can make it better? That's the one thing that I think helps me stay grounded through life and all its, struggles, right? Because sometimes there's things out of our hands that aren't ideal.
Well, I think every day you're getting something thrown in your hands that you can't control, but you have to figure out how you're gonna take it, how you're gonna respond to it, how you're gonna move on to your next day with that blow to the face or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think old people in general, like, they do everything with a calm, cool, collect. Like, we all have that grandpa, right, that kind of laughs when you've had a bad day, and he like laughs at your issues or whatever it may be. He's like, "Oh, son, you're so young still. Like, don't worry about it." Where and that's what we get in our head, right? You get a flat tire on the van or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, I don't have the $200 to spend on this," but it's like, there's nothing you can do about it anyways. Like, you're at the mercy of the system. That's life. So just trying to learn and grow with it and not get super upset, and try and just be a little bit more like water to every situation and just conform to what life is bringing me in that moment, for sure.
Yeah. The waves build, the waves crash, the waves build again.
Yeah, lots of weather, right? With life, sometimes it's cloudy days, sometimes it's sunny, sometimes you can't do no wrong, and other days it's just like you smash your head off every little thing and you're stubbing your toes and nothing goes right and mad at the world over nothing. So I think we can all relate to that and have been there. So
Definitely. That's good.
You want to get into some of these other questions here?
I'm gonna take a piss. Go. You guys keep talking.
Jared and Kaelin are looking for bubbly sponsorship. So anybody who has tuned into this, I'm retired now, so I drink nudes.
We'll take nude sponsorship.
Yeah, we'll take any sponsorship for these guys. Absolutely. Kaelin, what about you? How's the training been going? You're now looking, first national is a little over a month out. Nope, 6 weeks.
Yeah,
end of July at Gopher, right? So
yeah, July 25th.
Do you take the approach that you have now to kind of wind down, recover, enjoy the little things before you go kind of beat your head against the wall for 5 rounds? Or for you, are you trying to hunker down, get that last minute testing in, that last minute training? Are you putting a lot of emphasis on Gopher as well? That's another thing. I feel like a lot of guys really hype up Gopher, and it's just one of those rounds that you can only really, it's its own unique beast, right? The day is what it is.
It's one round too.
Yeah.
I guess not
three
that many
three
this year,
motos
but
this year, right?
yeah.
So it is 3 motos. So.
Usually it's just one round out of
Yeah.
8 or whatever.
It's 3
9.
motos on a 5-round series. So we're looking at, 15% of the score, or your points for the year are going to be at Gopher Dunes.
Yeah,
Somewhere
no,
around there, right?
Yeah, that's a big day for sure. But most of the work that I felt like I needed to get done is all done now, and with the bike and now with training, it's like a little bit tapering off, maybe on the load and bumping up the intensity. But kind of like what you were saying, like just having a bit of a balance, because I mean, this has been a long time to wait around to go racing, and just sitting here twiddling your thumbs kind of gets tiresome, you know? And when you're just like waiting for something to happen, hoping that we're going to get gate drops, like that almost kind of burns you out in a sense mentally. And yeah, so I mean, I feel like I've gotten everything done that I need to get done, and yeah, just kind of want to enjoy the summer, and obviously like keep the momentum going with the training, and keep the intensity high, but maybe not so many days. And like Jared and I have been talking about it a bit and trying to stay on the same page. I know he still has some boxes he wants to check off, but no, yeah, I feel good and happy with my bike and the changes. And yeah, it's I even though like we're supposed to be here kind of mediating the podcast, I really enjoy sitting here being a fly on the wall, listening to you talk and hearing a different perspective and how you approach things as a racer. And yeah, like even some of the things you said tonight, it's like yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, or something like maybe I can shift here and apply it to myself. Like yeah, it's a never ending puzzle that you're trying to figure out. But
yeah, and it's like we still are totally ingrained. Like our main focus is still trying to go faster. So still, sometimes you overlook a lot of these little things that Dylan's talking about, or maybe you could step back a little bit and reflect on it more.
So taking the positive out of this break of not being able to race, what was the biggest thing you got to do out of this break that's going to help you moving forward? I know there was a lot of struggles out of it, but did you get anything good out of it?
Honestly, it's like this has actually been the first time in a very long time that I've like not went racing and been away from yeah, for the past however many years I've been going racing and been away from my girlfriend for like X amount of months.
Pretty much every summer, right? Like you're gone in California, you come back for a couple months, and then you dip into the series, and then you're gone. And even when you are around, you're pretty distant, right? You're out doing your stuff during the day. Like you're not texting when you're doing your motos, or when you're out on your road bike, or when you're doing bike work. Like we're not engaging with other people at that. We're within ourselves. So absolutely, you got a lot more time, which could be good and bad in the relationship.
Yeah.
As we know.
No, yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, for what people might see on Instagram with all these like superstar dirt bikers and they're posting about their girlfriend every other day, like, and it might, like, everybody might think it's all sunshine and rainbows, but I don't think that's the case. 'Cause like, I know for myself, being gone for months on end, that doesn't make things easy. And so, yeah, I think like one of the main positives that I can draw from this is that I've been able to put more time into my relationship and be a better partner. And I think it's been like a learning curve for me on that front, not being so selfish every year, like putting so much time into myself. And it's almost kind of weird trying to like shift gears a little bit. And
well, then it comes a little bit more about you guys as a whole versus just yourself as a racer, right? Like, and that's where that selfishness kind of comes in as a racer. Is it does develop a lot of time during the day-to-day basis, and then all of a sudden when you don't have that reason to be a selfish athlete, you're kind of like, oh shit, like my chick's still got to go to work every day. Like she's still got this going on, or whatever it may be. And I'm curious too, like, how was your guys' motivation without a racing? Because I've talked to a lot of athletes and cyclists that are just like, well, I don't know, like, what am I pedaling for? And I'm like, well, for me, since 2015, I'm just training for life. I just like to feel good. I like to be fit. I like to see my numbers and see what I can get to. But as a racer, when you're always training for an event and now all of a sudden there is no events and the series gets changed, 4 or 5 times before you even execute a race, you're kind of like spinning your tracks a little bit, pulling your hair out. Like, what the hell am I doing right now? Like, what's the goal? Like, I'm doing all of this, I'm not making any money. And the other thing too, as a racer, I'm sure it's the same for you guys now as it was for me. Like, you basically reinvest last year's winnings into the off season, and then when the off season is the whole season and you're not racing and you're not making any money, all of a sudden you're kind of like, what the hell am I doing now? Like, right? Like I can't live off Mr. Noodles forever, and I'm riding these bikes to try and get paid, and we're not racing. So now what? So just curious where your guys' motivation has been at through the since all the races got canceled, and then back to the schedule, and we're looking at 5-6 weeks out from the first round. Jared, take it away.
Yeah, I think there was definitely. I'm not gonna lie and say that there wasn't a point where my motivation was definitely dwindling, but I think more than anything, I just kind of stepped back and I just kind of enjoyed riding more. Like I enjoy doing stuff in the gym. I enjoy going road biking, mountain biking, doing the cardio, doing the strength workouts. Like that stuff I enjoy doing anyway, so I had no problem getting that done. The only place
when your motivation was dwindling, what lacked?
Oh, just like
what was it? The getting out of bed? Was it going to work? Was it saving the money? Diet? Like what?
Just my diet.
Yeah,
diet's the big one. Right? Like I can have Wendy's tonight.
Yeah,
we're not racing for a while. That's kind of my vice.
An extra drink or two, or whatever exactly. It may be, right? So
yeah, you just like a little more lax on that front. But yeah, I think like with that kind of like kind of unsure, I just kind of just enjoyed riding, and then I think it like obviously too last year I didn't race, right? I raced the first round, got hurt, didn't really ride much. I had blown up bikes all year, so
yeah, you had a very challenging 2019.
Yeah, it wasn't ideal.
What the average person is dealing with in 2020 with COVID and pandemic, Jared had all of that last year, but just with dirt bikes.
Yeah,
it's really
really
it's beating his head against the wall, injuries, bikes. Everybody,
it was a nightmare last year. So I think I was just kind of glad to just I had no problem going riding 4 or 5 days a week. Like I still wanted to go riding, so I think that was kind of good. And I think like you can't be too over motivated too when you don't really know when the series is going to start, because then you're going to just start training, you're going to start going to boot camp, and then all of a sudden it's July and you're not racing for another 3-4 weeks, and then all of a sudden you're burnt out. So
yeah, essentially when you're working that hard, right, you're digging yourself a hole, you're training on borrowed time, and there comes a point where you need to recover. So I think that's definitely a smart thing, right? I think that's why everybody kind of dials it back that 10-20% and starts to go more consistent with their training and lifestyle for longevity versus just pure performance, right? And how about yourself, Kaelin, with motivation and training, what or day-to-day life in general, not just training?
Yeah, kind of a bit of what Jared said, and also a bit of what you said too. Like I don't know, I've grown accustomed to enjoy suffering. So like there was times where it's like, man, like there's nothing to do. Why? Like we got nothing to push for. There's no carrot in front of me. So what's the point? But once we kind of started seeing a bit of a light and the hope that we are going racing, like, yeah, you got to keep some momentum going with it. And yeah, you got to keep kind of clicking off your minutes and your hours and putting the work in. But yeah, I don't know. I just enjoy it. Like I just enjoy the process, and sometimes I almost think I enjoy the training and the practicing more than I actually enjoy the racing.
I feel the same.
And it's I don't want to get too much into that mindset, but
no, I see it, and honestly I see it with you, Kaelin, sometimes too, where I'm like, okay, is he trying to be the best pro racer he can be, or is he trying to be the best test rider he can be, which everybody bags on you for, right? Which is a little bit of both, but at the same time too, right? Like it's good to be aware of your bike, like I was saying, but on race day it's time to race, right? Mm-hmm. So same thing. And did you guys any weird kind of negative emotions come up with the lack of racing, like a little bit of confusion and maybe something arose that wasn't, or was there a positive of, wow, now I can go ride my mountain bike this weekend, and if I want to go do a 4-hour ride or a 1-hour ride, it really doesn't matter? Was there anything positive that maybe you guys found some enjoyment in something else outside of your usual, because it does become a little bit habitual as well year to year, right? It's the kind of the same year. You go down to California, you do your winter training, you come back, kind of subpar weather for a few weeks, and then you dip into local races, and then you do the nationals, and it just becomes a little bit of this routine that we know. Is there anything that with the change of life, relationship, racing, training, that was a positive that came and a negative from it?
I can't really think of a negative. I just think it was positive. Like we've been doing a lot more mountain biking, doing some jet skiing, going out to Invermere, Radium, just like kind of hanging out. It's been
Yeah, you rebels crossing borders during this whole COVID thing. You guys are insane.
It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's been nice. Been like you almost kind of get the best of both worlds, because like, we're gonna go racing in like just over a month, but we also get to enjoy some of our summer, going mountain biking, jet skiing, hanging out with our friends, doing that kind of stuff. So it's been, I don't know, I'm okay with it.
You ride new tracks too, right? You spend more time at home. You ride new trails. You get to do some stuff that you never thought of before, and then you kind of get this like, oh shit, there is a little bit of a life outside of riding our bikes, right? Yeah. So, and you, Kaelin, any positives or negatives out of the delay in the series per se? Obviously, a bit of a negative, I feel like, from all of this is there's no race in Calgary for you guys.
Yeah,
like,
that sucks.
That's got to be challenging being West Coast guys, and then like. You know, I've invested all this time riding on the West Coast, and we ride in Calgary, and then you got to go to Ontario now.
But also, there's like, I've never been known to be a strong sand rider, so I almost kind of look at that like kind of a challenge, like something where I feel like I almost have nothing to lose, and I can really sink all my attention into improving that skill.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we've been riding like a few sand tracks. Getting fines and stuff.
Taking that extra time to go ride.
Almost got arrested, but
yeah, you guys said you got the police officer was nice enough to hand you guys $300 fines each for riding. That's a tough pill to swallow. I'd be a little aggro after that.
I was a little concerned when he's like, "We're gonna the property owner wants to press charges." I'm like, "What do you mean felony charges? Like, are we talking like 5 digits? What are we talking about here?"
Do you want to just charge me with your taser for a minute? Like, I'll take that instead of the $300.
and then Keelan's trying to negotiate. Like, hey, well, there's like tons of garbage out here we can clean up, and
I like it. That's the privateer like lifestyle. I admit I don't got $300.
I couldn't let it go. I was just like, man, please. I'm like, it's windy. Just let those tickets fly away. He's like,
can you fill out my name wrong or my address or something, please? Like, do me a solid. We won't come back. We don't have militia. We're not out here drinking and smoking and throwing
the guy was
double cans off.
The cop was
honestly
pretty respectable. Like he gave us the minimum he could have gave us.
Yeah.
So
he's just doing his job.
Yeah.
And you guys are just doing your job, but unfortunately, somewhere in between there was private property.
Yeah.
Apparently,
it was what it was.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Such a shame. It was a perfect place.
Such a good place.
I heard there's some boys out in the Abbotsford area. They're riding under one of the bridges right now. There's a bunch of sand, and they're all like, he showed me the bridge near Maple Ridge where they just carved in a corner track. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to last.
Oh, is that Parker?
Yeah, Parker's been riding some like whooped out. Well, he's like making it. It's super close. It's on his commute home from where he's working right now. So he can bring his bike to work and ride. And it's like right underneath the Golden Ears Bridge or something ridiculous like that.
No
I'm like,
way.
Man, you're just looking for a fine down there. But
that's funny.
You got to do what you got to do, right? It's tough times, and that's another positive outside all this is I feel like there's backyard tracks and people riding dirt bikes everywhere. Like I seen a used 2017 KLX 110 for $3,500 on Kijiji today. It's $600 more than retail for a used one. Like,
for real.
It's like hard to find, which you literally can't find them anywhere right now, right? So that is one upside of our sport that in the industry that has happened through all of this is a lot of people have went out and bought bikes because that's something that you can do. And then there's been backyard tracks everywhere. Like everybody's doing whatever they can to go ride, which is cool. Like we need that resurgence of fun and riding and it not costing us a lot of money versus going to the track and you pay that $35 sign up fee and everything else. Like it becomes a bit of a process, right? Instead of just riding because we love to ride.
Yeah, totally. I don't think you got to your question.
What was it again? Can't remember.
You asked him a question, I think.
Just on the motivation.
Oh yeah, I got mine. I don't think you answered yours, did you? Or did you?
Yeah, a little bit. He was talking about the track there and whatnot and what happened and with that. But yeah,
motivate when motivation was lost.
Yeah, like just through the pandemic and basically your job, same as everybody else, right? Like what we had, everything got flipped upside down, landed on its head a little bit. And for you, like where was the motivation and how did that play into your day-to-day basis when you found out that the racing was postponed or possibly canceled? And now that we do have this series, like where is it at?
Yeah, I mean, it was more so just like, yeah, I guess kind of like what I was saying, when you don't have that carrot in front of you, you just kind of feel lost. And for me, like I always have to be kind of, or like anybody, you always kind of just have to be like tinkering away at something. And yeah, when that's not there, it's like a little difficult. You kind of get down in the dumps, and you might sit and watch a little too much Netflix and eat a little too much food and whatever. But yeah, I don't know. It's super weird times, and you can definitely tell it's like it's a reflection of what's going on with our world right now. Like I think everybody's just kind of like lost and trying to figure out what to do. Like everything seems like it's falling apart. So hopefully things slowly start kind of rebuilding and getting back to normal, and we all kind of find our direction again. I mean, for me, now that we've heard that there is a pretty set date and they're pretty confident with the races happening, it's like, okay, like now it's like I have a plan and a purpose to that plan to execute. So it's like it almost like you feel whole again when you got something to step forward towards. And
yeah, you have a goal, right?
Yeah.
You have a clear goal to work towards, right?
Yeah, because it seems pointless to wake up when you don't. So why get out of bed if there's nothing there?
Yeah, it's hard. It sucks. Trust me. Like when I get up at 5:30 to go pedal now, just because it's kind of like, why am I getting up at 5:30 to do this?
It's more easy to just like give yourself that out.
Yeah, exactly. There's not anything kind of holding you accountable for doing it, right? So it's like sometimes I'll kind of do it for a couple days and then it fades off and then it comes back. So it's just interesting to see how that goes. And I think that's everybody in life, right? You get a little complacent, a little stagnant, and things start to slip a little bit, and you get a little spare tire, muffin top, whatever it may be. And yeah, it's funny how everybody responds to things, right? Like some people always, maybe have some demons where they're always have to be going forward. So when this forces them to slow down, they're like, get a little bit of anxiety. They don't know what the hell to do with themselves. They're like, oh my God, they're trying to run around. Like, what do I do? Yeah. So it's just curious to see how everybody responds. Some people like yourself, like you said, like just kind of chill out, a little more Netflix, kind of enjoy the downtime. Like this is out of my control. This is all I can do. And then other people just panic. They're like, oh my God, like no money. I can't do this. I can't go to the gym. And they start just being like hypochondriacs about everything, right? And they just go basically just live in fight or flight until they get shit under control.
I think that's showing right now with a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I'm sure it's the same around the world, but a lot of people are just ruthless right now in general, right? Like it's they're nuts. Just, you can't go out on a day-to-day basis without having some sort of conflict with somebody, it seems like right now. It's definitely pretty tough. And even in Calgary, it's a little bit more, people a little bit more on edge down here, I find, versus Edmonton. I don't know if it's just the territory or the cases or whatever the case may be, but it definitely seems like people down here are a little more tense, a little more on top of each other, a little more aggro.
No, I would agree with that for sure. Like it's weird. It's like a weird vibe. Like I'm a guy that kind of believes in energy a little bit.
100%.
Totally. It's totally a thing.
Like, you like walking through the grocery store and you can just tell everybody's just kind of like, it's odd. You know, they're
just tense. It's like a cat. It's got its hair on its back. Everyone's just kind of like, oh, right? Like, and then you say something light to people. Like, for instance, when I was picking up these nudes, I'm walking out of the liquor store and the guy in front of me and his wife, they parked right beside me, and she parked on like total dipshit angle. Like I could barely get my van door open. And the guy goes, yeah, my wife kind of parked like an asshole. And I'm like, yeah, I thought that, but I was just keeping it to myself. And he just chuckles. But like most people, if you say that, they would kind of be on edge about it a little bit, right? And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, let's just make fun about the situation. Like, you guys, it's Saturday afternoon or whatever day, you're just trying to get a little bit of, I lose track of days.
Yeah,
Sunday. Supercross is on Sunday. I get all mixed up. But, it's just funny how everybody's like that. And I just try to like, I don't know, just be light about it, right? But everybody's so friggin' serious all the time. Like you're walking through the grocery store and you go down the aisle the wrong way of the arrows and someone points it out. It's like, dude, just chill. Yeah. Just like stand over here to the side if you're that worried about it, a little bit. Like, it's all good.
Yeah.
Things are definitely tense here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think it's hilarious walking by people down an aisle in a grocery store and you're just like turning into like the shelves away from each other.
It's so funny watching all of that. And it's just like, you just think I always just think of like Will Ferrell when he was on the semi-pro. He's on the Flint Tropics. ELE. Everybody love everybody. Like, let's just chill the hell out. Like, it is what it is. Let's just get along, people.
We're all in it together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you guys think they run the Nationals without spectators?
I talked to Kyle the other day, and he's like, we're doing it with or without.
It's crazy.
Like, all right.
I feel like for us, that doesn't really change a whole lot. I mean, amateur racers, like if they don't have any amateur people, there's going to be a lot less spectators there, because I feel like that's usually 50% pull of the spectators is amateur racers and families at the track that are kind of there for the event when it's in town. So it might be a little bit different now. Like, I don't see a lot of Ontario local level people going to go for Moto Park, Walton for all these nationals. Like, I just don't see those type of people showing up for spectating, right? So it's going to be a little bit of the local draw, and hopefully for the Jetworks crew, there's not a lot of other events going on right now. So hopefully they pull more people because of that, because of the lack of things to do, and then everyone's been cooped up inside. So that would be the to look at it in the positive look. Like, let's hope that happens for them and helps grow the sport a little bit and gets more people engaged in what's going on. So
and like, I know I was talking to some of the people at Husky, and they're saying like they're devoted to making it happen, because like if they feel that if it doesn't, it's going to be really hard to reignite things for the coming years. But I don't know. It's all really tough to say which way it's going to go.
Well, let's be positive about it and hope it goes well. We get a good turnout. The riders stay healthy. The racing's good, and we see some good battling coming up, and that the government stays off of the series back and lets them do their best and put together some good tracks. I feel like Gopher Dunes, Moto Park, Walton, Sandaley, like all those tracks are managed by either ex-pros or race teams that are running teams in the series now. So I feel like those should be some good events, which is really good that they put that series together. Kind of, I get that it's in Ontario and it's basically a provincial series if you really want to be completely honest about it, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, Supercross is doing 7 rounds in the same stadium. Yeah. So what are we really going to say about it? So at least we got some options and some different tracks to race on for the guys.
Yeah, totally. What's going on over there?
Just getting some low batteries going on.
I'll get them.
Fahey's got to plug the iPhone.
You can probably plug that bad boy in.
iPhone.
Take out. That one's probably got full battery now, right?
It's dying.
Oh, what?
Stealing you're probably good. You're full.
Okay.
I'm gonna steal yours. What does this bad boy have to do?
All right. So we're still rolling?
What's the password for that?
For Ben Methods?
Yeah.
I can't just put it out on the air, bro.
Type her in.
Just put it out on the air. People hack into the show. Do you guys have any like loyal listeners that come in and comment on every show other than Steez Louise?
We got Steez.
Yeah, I mean Steez Louise, he's a good guy. He's always out there on the Twitter or the Instagram throwing out the comments, keeping the comments going for everybody.
I feel like we got like a solid little.
You don't have like I guess he's like your guys' dark side a little bit.
Yeah,
right? Steez
maybe. Yeah.
Does Steez Louise have a ponytail? Maybe he'll crash Fasciotti's bike like Dark Side crashed Bradshaw's at the flat. Oh, good times.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, no, we got some people that are pretty pumped on it.
Yeah.
We got a couple people that are interested in sponsoring it and trying to help us grow and get better. And
I give you guys credit for doing this and making the investment in the podcast and the equipment and the time to do it, which is always the tough thing as an athlete, right? You got to time to be here and do this. You got to take that from somewhere, right? So I give you guys credit for investing that up front and kind of diving into something. It's not like you guys went to school for podcasting or have a background of it, right?
We don't even know what we're talking about half the time.
Yeah, not our wheelhouse for sure.
No. But it's fun. Like, I really enjoy
That's how you get good at it, though, right?
Yeah,
it's the same thing as anything else, right? Practice makes perfect. So you're going to put out some really shitty podcasts to start. I mean, you go back and listen to other people like Rogan or Pulp and things like that we all kind of listen to, right? Like, they really sucked at the beginning, so it takes some time.
Oh yeah,
you learn, right? Keep it going.
Totally.
Yeah, yeah, in all honesty, it just started out as like a pastime over the winter because we're kind of bored, and also felt like it was.
Yeah, well, we live in the friggin' Great White North in the winter where it's dark at 4 p.m. and the sun doesn't come up again until about 9 a.m. and it's minus 30, and you got to let your vehicle like warm up for 20 minutes before you go anywhere. A lot of people don't understand that struggle that we have as Canadians. I think it's hard to have motivation here in general, nevertheless, just to really be overachieving. Like, I think just like to be an athlete here and you're trying to grind through those winters on Zwift, like
the sunlight. I think the sunlight is the biggest thing.
The sunlight is really tough. And it's funny, like in the wintertime, you jump on Zwift and everybody's on it. Like you got like half the pro field on the West Coast is all on Zwift that night, sort of thing. So it's funny when you see it that way, everybody kind of putting in their work, but it's tough. Like people don't understand the luxury that they have of being in the United States and being able to travel and ride and train year round, and the consistency that comes with that, right? We're always peaking and declining really when it comes down to it because of the lifestyle that we're forced to lead by living in Canada, right? Unless you have unlimited amount of money and dual citizenship, that your kind of hands are tied behind your back on what you can really do as a racer, right?
Oh yeah. Sure. Well, yeah, and especially like even in the months that we can ride, our weather's so sporadic too that it's so hard to keep.
Which is why California is kind of a hot spot for us, right? We go down there and you get consistent training day after day after day, right? You know, like if it does rain, it's not going to be that much. And if it does, you go ride Nuevo the one day that it's kind of muddy.
Yeah.
Where here, like I just got pictures of the track that I built back in Edson, and the one corner is like under 3 feet of water because they got 25 mil of rain in 30 minutes. And it's just like, you know, like that's just that's part of what we have to deal with up here. And unless you have a hard pack track and a sand track all within a half an hour of your house, you're pretty much screwed. And we don't have indoor tracks on the West Coast. Like there's no riding here in the winter unless you're studding up your bike. That's really the only kind of thing we get. Beeline, I guess, is the closest thing, which is an indoor bike park for everybody. But yeah, it's a tough go. Tough go as Canadians up here. People don't
no doubt.
Yeah. No doubt, eh?
No doubt, eh? All right. So I wanted to talk a bit about that your injury you had, and what year was that? 2016, 2017?
The stomach injury. Yeah, so that
Arena
was
Cross, right?
Yeah, that was in Arena Crash in Chilliwack.
Yeah,
I was there for that.
2015. At that point in time, that was to be very transparent, that was a really shitty time in my life. It was a really tough time. I was already kind of on antidepressants and pretty lost on what the hell was going on with my life. I opted out of racing, had a relationship that I was just way too like put everything into it after I quit racing, and then that buckled and folded. So I was pretty lost, and so I was just racing Arena Cross for something to do. I was just looking, searching, like why I don't know what to do. So it was something familiar that I knew, and ended up going down on the first, or I think it was the second night, Saturday night at Chilliwack, and took a handlebar to the stomach. Not wearing a chest protector, and I ended up having a torn duodenum, and not many people probably know what that is. So it comes off the bottom of your stomach where all your food is. It's the first part of the digestive process where all your stomach acid is stored, and it breaks down all your food. So I had raw stomach acid leaking into my blood, and I also had 2 hernias on my diaphragm. So I started going into shock on the side of the track. Like I'm drooling everywhere. I can't control it. Eyes are rolling back into my head. I can't sit up straight. Things aren't really good. And it didn't really register with me what was going on until they were loading me into the ambulance. And I looked down, or I opened my eyes anyways. And I remember seeing Kyle Springman and Kyle Swanson holding the bodyboard, like whatever, what am I drawing? Backboard on when they lift you off the track. So they were holding the feet, and both of them were white as a ghost, like just staring at me, terrified. And that's when I was kind of like, shit, this is not a good situation right now. Like clearly, like these guys look terrified right now. And ended up going to the hospital, 3.5 hour surgery. They gave me morphine without me even asking for it. So that was less than desirable as well too. So the doctor, I guess, ordered it, didn't clear it with me. Nurse injects it, get all jacked up. And then being tense from the morphine caused my stomach to hurt worse. So that was a really terrible experience that I kind of had to deal with as well too at the hospital, and ended up 24 days in Chilliwack Hospital. It was a 3.5-hour emergency surgery. They took all my intestines out, had to clean everything, stitch it up, put it back in. And I had a 32 staple scar from just below my belly button to pretty much up to my rib cage. And I had drains in my stomach, a tube up my nose, down the back of my throat. And I remember it being 65 centimeters exactly because I could read it right out the tip of my nose. And they pumped my stomach out for pretty much up until I left. It was basically the swelling from the trauma and the stitching closed it right off. I lost 17 pounds the first week, and then they put a PICC line in on day 9 because I was basically so weak I couldn't even get out of bed. And I ended up, it was 132 pounds by the time I got out of the hospital. They ended up doing an ultrasound, pinpointing exactly where the swelling and the trauma was in my digestive tract, and then they just marked it with a Sharpie, literally just a dot on my stomach, ultrasound machine, and then they did 4 freezing needles, and then they just took this massive horse tranquilizer looking thing, stuck it straight through my stomach while I'm wide awake and I'm watching them do it. And they pulled about, I think it was like 40 or 50 cc's of just this black sludge out, and that relieved all the pressure that was in there, and then I could start digesting liquids. And I was on a liquid only diet for I think 3 to 4 weeks after I got released from the hospital. And then I was on pureed food only for about another 2 weeks. And then I went to solids. So it wasn't, that happened in November. I got released right before Christmas. It wasn't pretty much up until about late February, March, where I was able to eat like actual food again. And I could still feel those hernias on my diaphragm anytime I'd start breathing hard. And that took a long time to recover from. Like, I still have serious, stomach issues because of that, right? So I don't eat dairy, eggs, or gluten anymore. And just the bloating and inflammation that I get from that food is pretty bad, just from the trauma that it caused to my stomach. So that was one of those things in life where it really kind of makes you question, like, what the hell am I doing right now? Like, I'm riding dirt bikes for fun, and then this happens, and I almost realistically almost die. Like, I didn't really grasp the seriousness of it. Like, I seen that how scared everybody was when it happened, but I guess I didn't really understand how serious and that injury really was until about 6 months afterwards, when I really was kind of got to absorb it and what had actually happened and the consequences of having stomach acid mixing in with your blood internally. Like, what could have happened from that was pretty serious. So just thankful that I was able to get rushed over to the hospital and get taken care of.
It's gnarly.
Yeah, it is a pretty gnarly one, and I've had a lot of injuries through the years as it is. I think I've had 9 surgeries, and I'm currently waiting for another 3 to get my knees fixed up with no ACL in either knee and needing the bone graft in the scope first to start. So I guess it's just something you kind of get used to a little bit, right? Like, it's just another hurdle. It's another bump in the road, and you just got to, put your head down and fight on and move through it. But that one was serious. I mean, I put it right up there with any head injury that you've had at the time, right? Like, head injuries are frustrating and challenging, and that's kind of how I felt with my overall health. Like, a year went by, and I'm like, man, I just feel like shit still. Like, I have no mojo. I'm tired, low mood, and that was a lot of just the diet and the trauma that came from that injury, and it took a long time to kind of start to figure things out again.
Yeah, you don't really think about that much, though. Like, you don't really think about, like, yeah, you go to race, you expect, I could break bones, I could hit my head. It's not something that jumps to your mind when you think about the risks you're taking on a motocross bike.
Absolutely. Like, internal injuries is something that we really don't think about, but it does happen, right?
Yeah,
like, a lot of guys lacerate spleens, which I've also done that as well too, and kidneys, livers, whatever the situation may be. And those are the scary ones because there's really no diagnosis with it, right? You're just kind of on the side of the track and you're like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'm just being a pussy. I don't know. I'm sore. Like, it doesn't feel right, but I don't have any bones sticking out of my skin, where we're very kind of type A that way, right? When it comes to things like, are you good or are you not? And with internal injuries, sometimes you don't really know. And that stuff can be really traumatizing. I have a couple buddies in the States that lacerated spleens. They go home not thinking of it, and then it ends up rupturing, and they almost, get rushed into the hospital, get their spleen taken out. And it's pretty gnarly. It's definitely a dangerous part of the sport for sure. Not that I think wearing a chest protector really would have saved me from the injury in the first place anyways, because where the handlebar caught me, I think would have been under where a chest protector was.
Right under it.
Yeah, I think it was going to go under it. And but, it's just one of those things that sometimes it happens. And no other injuries. Like, that was it. Just the handlebar to the stomach. And nothing else was wrong. I just basically scorpion down the landing and had a sore neck for a couple days, but that's it. So,
how was the mental roller coaster?
that was challenging. Being in the hospital, I think because I was already on antidepressants at the time, I was very just bleh about the whole situation. Like, yeah, this kind of sucks. Like, I don't know, whatever. But I ended up sharing a hospital room with 3 other people. There was 4 beds in there, and 2 people died in the bed beside me. And the one old lady ended up basically crapping herself in the middle of the night and passing away. So that's other stuff that I had to deal with too, is I'm sharing a room with 3 other sick people, and there's families in there, and I'm not eating anything, and they're getting hospital food every single day. So just the mental struggle of that, and just I think eventually I just gave in. I was just whatever, all I can do is get up and walk around this hospital right now. And there was no internet. So thankfully my parents went and got me a little Wi-Fi stick so I could watch movies. And I think I went over that in the first 12 hours. So I can only imagine what their internet bill was for that mobile stick. Cause I had nothing better to do, right? I had 32 staples on my stomach. I could barely get myself out of bed and to go to the bathroom. And I didn't have bladder function. They ended up, they actually pulled the, I'm drawing a blank on that when they put it in for catheter. Yeah. So they pulled the catheter out, and then I couldn't pee yet because the anesthetics from the surgery. And then they had to put it back in so that I could go. And then they pulled it back out again while I was awake for all of this. So that was a terrible situation. That was brutal. And I think the worst of it all was when they pulled the drains out of my stomach, because I think they were about 16 inches all wound through my stomach, and they had to just pull them out while I was laying there. And the first person who did it was a nursing student, so she was kind of scared, and she was just pulling it out inch by inch by inch, and I'm just death gripping the table. It felt terrible, right? And then I'm you can't do that again. There's no way. So then the actual nurse walks in. I'm not kidding you. She put her foot on the edge of the table, grabs it with 2 hands, and she's like, "You ready?" And just reefs on that thing as hard as she possibly could, and it came flying out, and it was 2 seconds of pure shock and then nothing. And I'm like, oh God, that was so much better than the first time. But you just because that's how suctioned they were into my stomach at the time, right? They had been in there for 10 days, and it was gross when they pulled those things out. It looked terrible. But just seeing her brace herself a little bit, you're kind of nervous. Holy shit, she's going to rip me out of the bed from my stomach. This isn't cool. That's so gnarly. Yeah, it's just some really uncomfortable situations. And when you've been in the hospital for that long, I'm like, I don't care if you got to chop my arm off to get me out of here. Do what you need to do. I want to go home. I don't want to be in here anymore. So I think that was really tough. And then I think the biggest thing was the next year. It was emotionally frustrating because I'm cycling and I just don't have any motivation for life. Just really bland, really low mood. And I think that was what was challenging, because I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't me. I don't have any drive to do anything. I'm just kind of going through the motions. I don't really know what I want out of life. And that's when I ended up racing those nationals on that KTM 252 stroke with it. And I'm like, I don't even really want to be here right now. The dealership approached me and gave me a bike to race it. And I'm like, I don't even really want to do this, because I was just over everything. Was miserable, not happy at all. And so it was definitely, for me, from the time I blew my knee out in 2015 up until end of 2016, that year and a half was the deepest, darkest days of my life for sure. It was really challenging learning how to let go of racing, the injury, what had happened, and what the hell do I do now? This isn't really what I felt like what was supposed to happen, but I'm not in control of that. This is the cards that I've been dealt with. So what can I do with it? But that year and a half sucked. It was miserable. And it was really challenging on everybody around me too, right? Because I'm just this terrible negative person. and you start to bring people down around you, right, that are just constantly trying to help you. And I had some really great friends that were there, and I don't want to make it sound terrible. Like, there was some really good moments in that year and a half, but at the same time, there was a lot more negative than there was positive, for sure. And I think that's really what kind of has changed me a lot as to who I am on a day-to-day basis now. So I think I was pretty aggro, pretty spoiled, basically kind of a selfish athletic racer, dirt bike guy when I rode. I think I was a bit of a prick that way, and I think it definitely changed me as soon as I stepped away from the sport that way, and kind of make you realize that there's more to life and to be grateful for the little things. Absolutely.
Definitely tell, like, you're a pretty gathered guy and like fairly articulate. I'm kind of gathering, like, going through that experience is probably a big period of growth and learning for you.
A lot of podcasts, a lot of books. And there was, I want to say in the spring of 2016, I was going to therapy twice a week for a few months, at least, for sure. Like, just down the road, I was working at Wholesome Motorsports at the time, and I think I was going every Tuesday and Wednesday after work. And it was just, man, it was a tough time, dude. Like, I was working on some shit, that's for sure. And it was just draining, like, just constantly tired and just exhausted all the time, just from your mood. But that's where real growth happens, right? When you're down and out and you're really forced and you're going through some challenging things and you're learning a lot about yourself. There's a lot of awareness that comes into place. Like, yeah, I didn't really understand why I would be angry or sad before. I just knew that I felt those things, and starting to have the understanding of all that stuff come to play and come up to the surface. It just forces growth, right? And then I think it takes some time to soak all that in and to really digest it all too. And then you got to come to a point too where you're like, okay, like, you got to accept it and then just move on. Like, okay, I don't need to just keep reading, self-help books and going to therapy and shit all the time. Like, at what point in time am I just going to choose to fucking have a good life and try hard and put my best foot forward? So I think that's an equally as important component too, when it's like, okay, I'm time to get back up on this saddle and I'm not going to feel sorry for myself anymore. And I've learned, and let's go. Like, let's take the tools that I've learned, because I just feel like it's a little bit of an endless hole. Like, you see people reading these books after books after books, and therapist after therapist after therapist, and just some other stuff that I've seen coming through, and like some support groups that I've been to and stuff. And you just see these people just spinning their tracks. And sometimes you just got to get out of the way of yourself and just be like, yeah, this sucks, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm just going to do it. Whether I want to do it or not, I have to. I don't have an option. This is the only option I have, is to try and just do better and get better. So, yeah, I think that's definitely some growth that comes through that, right? And when it comes down to it, you feel appreciative of it all when it's said and done with. Like, it's tough, but grateful for it. When you really come full circle for it, you're like, shit, like, I'm 27 now and I've gone through a few things that I feel like some people don't ever get to, or that maybe not till later in their life. And man, I'm really thankful that I got to learn these things at this age and to grow from it. And I think it's a good way to just keep moving forward and pick up a little bit of steam for maybe that year and a half that you feel like you lost out on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you almost feel like a badass from overcoming that hurdle, because at the time it seems like the biggest challenge you've ever faced. But I mean, I'm not gonna get into any of my stuff, but I know exactly where
it's no different than when you were tearing up after your good ride in Calgary where you got top 5, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you've invested so much into that point to get that result. And it's no different than when you're depressed and you felt terrible and you just hated everything. And then you're finally you kind of get into a moment of a little bit of euphoria where you're happy and you just look around and life's beautiful and there's lots of color and you feel love and all these things again. And you're just like, fuck yeah, like, I feel good right now. Like, this is awesome. This has been a long ass time since I felt this way. So I think that brings a little bit of the same high, maybe not on the same level, right? Because after a race, your emotions are high and you're not really thinking straight because all the adrenaline and whatnot. But it's the same thing, right? Like, and that's why racing is so rewarding, and going to school. And when the longer you have to strive for something and the longer it's been held back from you, and then when you finally achieve it, god damn, it feels good, right? Like, those short victories are nice, but it's those relentless morning after morning, or therapy after therapy, or bike ride after bike ride. And when you finally really get to that point that you want, that's where it all pays itself off.
Yeah. It's that contrast, right?
Yeah. It makes it that much better, right? Because those small wins, like if you're not really setting obnoxiously high goals for yourself, you're never going to get that, oh my God, that feels so good. So you're going to kind of slip into that rut a little bit, right? Like you're going to have that 200 foot, like I'm just working on myself as far as the headlights can go, but you don't have that end of the road trip goal that you really need. Like I think we need that on a day-to-day basis. We need to be able to see as far as what we can to stay motivated for that day and to make sure that we're executing our day and hitting our points. But you need to have that end of the road trip goal of like, okay, if I do this every single day or 5 days a week or whatever it is, when it comes time to get to my final destination, I'm going to hit this mark. And that's when it feels really good, right? The more you suffer, the more you've put into it, the more you've invested financially, physically, emotionally. That's when you get that high of euphoria of like, holy shit, this is great right now. And I think that's a feeling of winning that you just don't get anywhere else.
That's kind of to backtrack a little bit. That's the tough thing about being depressed is you don't see anything. You don't even have the headlights. It's just like you don't know where you're going. But it's like once it does get there, that euphoria, like the contrast, like you don't know your highs without your lows. But it's like everything tastes twice as good. Everything just feels twice as good. It's
like that deep depression. It's like a gray, rainy day every day, right? You look out the window and it can be sunny and the mountains can be beautiful and the grass is green, but everything's just kind of gray, right? Like this song doesn't sound as good, the food doesn't taste as good. But when you're back up and you're just like hanging out with your buddies and you're looking around, or you ride your dirt bike or whatever it is, and you're just like, damn, this feels good again. Like it just makes it feel that much better, right? You got to have those rainy days to appreciate the sunny ones. Yeah. When you have a lot of shitty rainy days, you finally get a sunny one. You're like, oh boy, this feels the best good. Sunny day. It feels great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's some good stuff.
Thanks for sharing.
Hey, no worries. That's just tip of the iceberg. Keeping it pretty PG here today with all that stuff, but that's good. I enjoy sharing, and ultimately when it comes down to it, like I think one thing I have learned about myself is I like helping other people out and getting the most out of them, right? Like sharing my story and some things and some of my personal endeavors and challenges. I feel like that empowers people, right? When you like, you know, like there's a lot of astigmatism with eating disorders, and when I bring that up, like people look uncomfortable as shit. They're like, oh, like you kind of like, what? That's weird. I don't know what to think of that. And then but there's other people who struggle with it, and you talk about it and you're like, it gives them power, right? And it's the same thing with depression and everything else, right? Like being open. And I think we live in this world of social media where everything looks perfect. So when someone's life isn't perfect, they feel like they're less than everybody else. So there's some sort of power of being so comfortable and confident in yourself that you're like, yeah, I'm cool with like whatever, shit's not great right now. Like that's life. Like I'm not going to sit here and paint this beautiful picture like everything's sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Like that's not the reality of it. And I'm okay with that when my life's not like that. Like, yeah, I'm learning some shit right now. I'm growing. Like it's a challenging time, and that's okay, but it's gonna come on to the other side. So I think that gives other people power when they can see that a little bit too. And then they're like, yeah, I don't feel so bad about my issues now. Like that guy sounds kind of fucked up, right?
It
like,
makes the imperfect stuff normal instead of the perfect being normal, because we all know perfect is not normal. You don't get perfect all the time.
Definitely not.
So you're just putting that perspective of the imperfect is normal, so let's just live with it.
And embracing it too, right? Like just because I had a shitty day, or I'm struggling with this emotion, or you know, I'm hung up on a relationship or whatever it may be, like when you talk to people about that and they kind of like, if they're going through something that they can relate to, it kind of empowers them. And you don't know that, like you might have made their day by just being open and vulnerable about something like that. And maybe they won't even realize it in that moment. It might hit them a month later or a year later, who knows? But I guess I'm such a open book that sometimes it catches people off guard a little bit when I talk about things. Like they're a little bit like, whoa, I don't know about that. Like it makes them kind of weird. But I'm fine with that. I'm confident and comfortable with who I am now and the things that have happened in my life. So,
well, I could see that, especially in our community of motocross, that how being open and whatnot is not a normal thing for most of the men in our community to be sharing and open with a lot. And, you know, you're quite honest and open when you are. So it does throw people for a loop when they're normally trying to like hide and bury and keep it inside and deal with it themselves instead of getting that outside approach.
Yeah, and I think it makes you make sense of things too, right? Sometimes things are confusing, and then all you need to do is just talk about it. Like, you get that shit off your chest, and whether it's a therapist or your friend or somebody else, like, sometimes just talking about shit and getting it off your chest, you make sense of it as you're just word vomiting it out, really, in a way too, right? You're kind of like, oh, that sounds kind of stupid. Like, why would I hang up on that, right? So I think it's just healthy to talk about things in general and then not take it too seriously either, right? Like, not every conversation needs to be this deep, dark, enchanted, fucking spiritual endeavor through your soul. Like, no, like, let's go bullshit about the weather or whatever it may be. But I just think that that's something among people that it empowers others by just being open and honest, and people can kind of relate to that, right? So I think that's a really important thing that I try to bring.
Well, I think when you come across somebody who's open and honest, it makes you want to be more open and honest. Sure. And it's that, like, that whole what is it, pass on the kindness, random act of kindness thing, right? Like, you know, pass that forward, pay it forward. Exactly. Pay that attitude forward, because that attitude will influence more people's lives than a negative attitude. Well, a negative attitude will probably influence more people's lives, but
people like to flock to the negative.
That's
right.
right.
The news is, you know, to every 10 stories on the news, 9 of them are terrible, one's positive, right? So, and I see that with people too. Like, when I start opening up and talking about stuff, people they'll just be like, they just kind of get comfortable and they open up. Other people kind of get weird and shy away, and it might be the next conversation that you have with them where they open up. But generally speaking, if you throw out that first step of vulnerability and putting yourself out there, and then they kind of like, they admire that a little bit, or it makes them comfortable, or whatever it may be that triggers them to bring up their stuff a little bit, and you know, you slap a high five after it's all said and done with, and maybe they have a better day because of it, or a better week, or whatever the case may be, right? So, yeah. It is crazy, though, how human nature attracts negativity versus positivity. Like, we see that in the world right now a lot, right? Yeah. So
it's almost like it's just to make us feel better. We thrive on it because it's somebody else is doing shittier than we are.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys do when it comes to negativity? Like, if you've just had it with the whole pandemic and this and that, and people just bitching about masks or whatever it may be, like, do you guys just cut it off and refrain from talking about it? Do you have something where you go, all right, like, if this person is going to be angry, that's a lot, I'm going to let them vent, but I don't need to feel that. Like, what are your guys's coping mechanisms for negativity? Because it gets exhausting after a while. Like, that shit can bring you down. If you're around negative people and you're not aware of it, it can suck that life out of you without you even realizing it. So what about you, Kaelin? What do you do when you find things that are negative, where you have the awareness, it's triggered it in your head, and you're like, I don't really want to partake in this anymore? Like, what do you step away, or what's your deal?
I don't know. I think I'm a bit of a weird cat with that, where, like, I'm naturally pessimistic, but almost like in a very lighthearted way. Like, it's like if I'm dealing with some negativity, it's like I almost like sometimes let it get the best of me, but I'm able to kind of just let it roll off my shoulder like it's no big deal. I don't know. Maybe I need to do some self-reflection later.
I was just curious. Like, everybody's got their deal, right? On how they deal with things a little bit.
I think I don't know. This has been like kind of a recent thing for me, but I kind of like look and be like, okay, why is this person looking at all the negatives?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, maybe you're looking at all the negatives, but sometimes you just got to help them look at the positives. Like, just like change their view a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so you come in as kind of the motivational speaker on a little bit, like, someone's coming in with the half glass full, and you hit them with
perspective shit.
The glass half empty, and you hit them with the glass half full.
Yeah, I just think, like, you always got to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? So I think if you kind of look at everything as in no one's inherently evil, or no one's trying to piss you off or something like that, they're just like, okay, why are you looking at it this way? Maybe this is how this person feels. Maybe maybe something else triggered them, or I don't even really know what I'm talking about, but
well, you're just trying to say that
yeah.
you put it in perspective that it's not you the reason that they're being
Exactly.
negative, right? That like obviously there's something else in their life that's
Exactly.
bringing this negativity to them. So you're just like, yeah, whatever. I don't have that negativity in my life, so I'm just gonna disregard this person's comment because clearly they have some inner shit going
exactly.
on.
That's exactly
So,
what I'm trying to say.
Yourself, Chris?
Well, for me, when I come across that negativity, that persistent negativity, depending on the person, I deal with it differently. And you kind of read people in the situations you're in, and where you're at it makes a huge difference too, right? So a lot of times I'll just kind of almost agree with people, not agree with them, but just let them say what they're going to say. Go, yeah, okay, yeah,
you
yeah.
let them
oh yeah,
feel
you
like
got a point, you got an
listening to them,
opinion, you've
right?
got a blah blah
Yeah.
blah, right? And then I don't even necessarily will respond with my own opinion unless it's, and I mean, you guys can probably account to this, like when we're sitting at a table with someone, and whether it's a mutual friend or whatever, then I will respond with a discussion about, why that negativity was wrong, or what you're saying, why I feel differently about it. I guess you shouldn't be pointing at what people are saying is wrong, but just opinion differences.
Yeah. Well, it's participating in conversation. Right?
That's right. So like, I will gladly participate in a deep, passionate conversation with friends and mutual friends and things like that, or somebody you're having a dinner with. But when it just comes to day to day, like you come across that guy in the grocery store, he just wants to start going off on you about, oh, the masks are stupid and this or that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh yeah, okay, great, yeah,
you're not wasting any mental energy on that day. You're just like, whatever, dude.
Because it's just going to stress me out to the point where I'm going to go home and then somebody brings something up and I'm going to be pissed off about it because somebody's already irritated me. Instead, I just
some
kinda
random
let them.
dude at the grocery store has now got you mad at your girlfriend, and that's not fair.
Yeah, right.
Life,
so instead, you just let them kind of blow off your shoulder. You got your opinion. I'll move on with my day. But I mean, I'll get into it with somebody.
I think if it's personal, right, you're a little bit more comfortable with them, right? And everybody wants to be heard. Like that's the one thing that's super important when you're having a conversation with someone that's negative is just let them feel like they're heard a little bit first, and then you hit them with that positivity. Yeah. And if they don't want to take on that positivity, then that's when I'm just like, well, I'm choosing not to participate in this conversation anymore because this is not productive at all. So I'm just gonna, change a subject, or maybe not put it like that, but just be like, so anyways, about the weather today, because I don't want to cut this person up any further, right? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It's just funny how everybody kind of copes with it different. Some people have a really strong resilience to that, and other people it really brings them down right away. So it's just interesting to see everybody's perspective on how they handle negativity.
Yeah. Well, I guess with hearing you guys talk, to like kind of elaborate on, I guess what I was trying to say was like I almost kind of thrive on it a little bit, where like if I'm with a negative person, I'm almost like, because I've been there, like let's say like from a depression standpoint, like I've been there too, and it was a huge growing period, and for me, like I see every negative in life as some sort of opportunity, and like if I'm sharing a negative experience with somebody, I almost don't, like, maybe to an extent I do find it draining if it's something that I can't relate to. But if it is something that I can relate to, like if somebody has some sort of struggle going on in their life, it's almost like I thrive on it because I want to be able to help them through it and at least share my perspective or my opinion or something that I may have went through that might help them. Like it's that, like that's where it's like, I don't know, that like that's my one approach. But yeah, if I run into somebody that's bitching about coronavirus in the grocery store, it's like, I don't really care, man.
That's when you gotta look at it like,
when you have a personal friend though that's like upset and depressed a little bit, and they're talking to you, and you can totally relate, and you're hearing it, and you're like, yeah, I've been there, and you're like, motherfucker, you ain't been through shit yet. Like it's coming, don't you worry. Like you better brace yourself because this is just the tip of the iceberg. So it's just funny, totally. Like when that's where the motivation comes in, right? Because it fires you up. You're like, shit, I've been through that. But you got it. You're good. Don't worry about it. It's going to suck before it gets better, but you got it, dude.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, it's cool.
I like that we bring people up like that, though, too, right? Like we take Like, how shitty would it be if you went through all of that and I went through that and you've been through your concussions and no one said shit? Like, if you haven't started any of this mental health stuff and talked about concussions and you didn't help people in your life and I haven't reached out to help people in my life, like, man, it is great to be around people that are positive. And that's one thing through all this shit that's happened. Like, thank God all my friends and the people in my life are very like, yeah, whatever, like, you know, I might have lost some money or this is what that. And my circle of people through this whole pandemic and the people that I've surrounded myself, I'm like, man, these people are friggin' awesome. Like, this is cool.
Gives you new appreciation for it.
Yeah, it's inspirational. It gives you hope for, more than just yourself even, because sometimes, society makes it like, oh, is there even any hope out there for it? But then, like you say, you surround yourself with the right people, and absolutely, there's a lot of hope out there.
We live in a world right now where they're tearing us apart. Yeah. Like, there's more separation between people than there ever has been. And if there's anything, there's all my friends, I'm like, we're all on the same page. Like, this is great. Like, I trust me, if someone was like hard right on the whole COVID thing, I'd be like, I don't know what I think of this person anymore. But like, all my friends have been so great about everything that's going on and taking all their struggles and stride, and whether it's financial or whatever the issue is that's going on right now. And I'm like, man, this is great, because it's showing me I have a great group of people around me right now. Like, my friends are go-getters. These people are optimistic. They're getting it done. And that just makes me feel empowered. Like, shit, yeah, I got good people around me. Like, I'm glad to say that through a challenging time in my life that the other people are bringing themselves up.
So what would you say to a person who has a lot of those good friends around them that are just, motivated, they're getting stuff done in their life, and you kind of seem to be stuck in a rut, or, you're demoralized a little bit about everybody else's success by your own? What kind of, like, I guess not advice, but how would you take that as a person to grow with it, develop it, get over it, whatever you want to call it?
I think at that, like, if you're really feeling that way, like you're less than the people around you, I think it's really important to be kind to yourself, because obviously you're going through a growing process. So maybe you're a little bit lost on what your goals are, what you're striving for. Like, personally, for me, I'm going through for civil engineering technology course. I'm scared shitless to go back to school. Like, financially, I got knee surgeries. I haven't been in school in a long time, so it's a really uncomfortable thing. But I think that's what's is just to be like accepting of that. Like, yeah, like, I feel kind of weird right now. Everyone around me seems like they're on the up and up, and I'm maybe down a little bit. Well, don't make it worse for yourself. Don't beat yourself up over that. Look at it. Try and take a step back from a 10,000 foot view and look at what you're going on in your life, and like, okay, maybe this is why I feel that way, or what can I do? Who makes me feel better too? Like, who brings me up? Like, maybe I need to be around that person a little bit more in my life right now to get me out of my head and get me focused and get me motivated to get going, right? Because I think if we feel stagnant, it's a lack of goal. So that usually relates to a major life change. Maybe you've moved, maybe you change a job, maybe change a career, whatever the case may be. I think that's what's really important, to not get more down on yourself, right? Like, I think you got to stay positive on it.
I got another question for you. We've talked about this before, though. In terms of your personality, are you the type of guy, when your life starts to get a little stagnant or whatever, do you like to shake the bucket, so to speak, or do you like to try to just power through?
I get closed off. I think that's my biggest issue, is when stuff like that happens, I don't shake the bucket. I get closed off and I try to power through, where shaking the bucket and reaching out for support and getting out of my own head would be the best thing that I could do, right? Like, if this isn't working for me, clearly I do need to shake the bucket and go somewhere else, because this sucks. Like, I'm not happy. So maybe I need to shake the bucket where I'm at and switch it up, whether it's relationship, gym, life, like, what are my goals? Maybe it's not the job, maybe it's just me. Mm-hmm. So I think shaking the bucket is always going to be a little bit better of an outcome to it, because you obviously need some sort of change. If there's something negative, right, you need to flip that upside down and try and make the best of that situation. So
See, I always wondered on, like, how a person decides what he's going to shake, or him or her is going to shake the bucket on. Like you said, is it going to be the relationship, the career, this hobby? How do you decide what is affecting your life? And how is that really going to improve it? I think that's probably a hard decision.
It is, and it's confusing, and you never know, right? That's the thing. Like, I think as racers, we're always like, well, we know the next race. We know what we're striving for. We know the result that we're looking for.
There's
we
a clear
know
goal.
There's a clear goal, and sometimes it's like, well, what is my goal right now? Like, is it money? Like, I don't know. Money doesn't make me any happier. Like, there's a certain amount that I like to have to do the things that I want to do.
Oh, yeah.
But it doesn't make me happier by any means. I've been happy as all hell with no money and been happy with a good chunk of money in the bank. So it just comes down to that a little bit on what the situation is. Like there's just it's tough, right? Like you never know. That's the problem. Sometimes you're bummed out and you don't know why you're bummed out. You're just like, I just feel like shit right now.
Yeah.
So
I think that is the hardest part to figure out, is why are you bummed out? And you think it may be one thing, but it could
not
be totally left field.
It could
from
just be
that.
someone that you've invested some faith and honesty in, and they're giving you bad advice and leading you down a bad road, and you might have a lot of faith in that person. You have no idea that that's where it's coming from. So that's where I don't think being harder on yourself and powering through, because to me, if I power through, I usually end up buckling in a week or two, and it just ends up compounding the original issue. So I think a little bit of that step back, being kind to yourself, but still staying motivated, because I think some people feel complacent, right? Like, oh, I'm in a bad place right now, so they're just like, oh, I'm just gonna be shitty for a while. It's like, nah, you don't have to be like this every day. Like, you can make that choice right now. Do better, right? You don't got to wait till tomorrow or next week or new year or new month or your birthday or whatever it may be that you talk yourself up to. I think you have that opportunity right now all the time, and it's easier said than done. That's for damn sure.
For sure. Damn, it's a good podcast.
Yeah.
We're a little all over the map, but it's all good. Keep it going.
It's good. It's good.
Oh yeah.
I think this is probably this is a really good podcast.
This is a good one.
I don't feel like I've said much, but
I know Eddie's been doing quite a bit of talking.
By the way, my real name is Dylan. These are like there's few people, or actually my real name's Edward, sorry, but I go by Dylan. So my full name is Edward Dylan Mark Kaelin, and this is a very few select people that actually call me Eddie. Now I have no problems with that, but I think it's freaking awesome.
So about what, 4 people from one Kookanusa trip?
Kook, absolutely. So we got some stories. J-Rod and I go way back, then I don't know, we do some dumb shit together and have some fun, right? You gotta play hard, work hard.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we go through the Kook story where the guy in the what was that Chrysler 300 when the chick smoked the stump?
No, that was like a BMW 328 XI or something.
Yeah, so
we should go through that story.
End of the season, right? Like, why don't you take it away, Jared? I've been talking nonstop.
No, it's like, okay. So I think this would have been what year? 2017 maybe?
Yeah,
2017.
17
because we did a Kook trip in 15 and I was depressed and miserable and just wanted to leave the whole time. This was the good Kook trip.
This
one was good.
You were there, right?
Yeah,
okay. You were. I don't think you were there.
Chris showed up in the van.
Yeah.
We took the motor home. That was when you first got the motor home.
Yeah.
First voyage through Kook.
We're like we're burning down this like little sand trail. Yeah. So okay, I think this is the first night we got out there. We're just like we got there. It's like getting dark. I can't remember.
We're just trying to find somewhere to park, and
we
couldn't go down the ridge because we were in the motorhome.
Right.
So we kind of stayed up top and found a spot.
And then what happened? This guy showed up.
Well, we were all set up. We already dragged the skis down that steep ass hill.
Right.
So that's like something that people will never be able to understand how shitty that was. Like carrying skis. We're all like half drunk at the time. Like it's the end of the season, right? So like when we train hard, but we go hard when it's time to cut loose and Kook, right? Like there's no cell service, just a dust pit out there. But yeah, so anyways, we're all set up back at the RV having a campfire and some drinks, and then this shit show shows up beside us.
I think
I can't remember what
the
happened.
car was there. We just didn't really notice it. It was kind of abandoned when we got back to
they
the
were down at the
trailer.
lake or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Why was
there?
No, they stuck the car when we were there.
I thought it was high center.
Well, it was high centered.
The girl was driving. The girl was driving. Why was the girl driving the car?
Well, it was high
They were
centered,
lifting it.
and then we were like, "Oh, we'll give him a push off," and he chucks his chick in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
She's never driven a standard car before.
Because there's stumps everywhere,
Yeah,
right? They
so
cut
she
down
says-
a bunch of trees, so they're high centered on a stump on this beamer.
Yeah.
And there's 3 foreigners and this one chick, and they're yelling at each other in some language that we don't know.
Yeah, they were like from Quebec or something.
I don't know. I don't think it was French. I feel like it was Italian or something. But either way, it was pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, are we going to see a domestic out here? Like, oh, I don't know about this. But anyway, so yeah, like this is all happening. We're sitting over at the motorhome having some drinks in the fire, and we're watching. This car's high centered. So the 3 dudes are lifting it, and the chick's driving, and she's hammered. We're like, oh boy. And they say, as soon as you get off the stump, let off the gas. Well, of course, what does she do when they rock the car? It gets kind of, up and down. Finally, it hooks off, takes itself off the stump, and she smokes this stump that's like 2 feet tall. Like, she had to hit it wide open in this beamer.
Yeah, it was like 20 feet away. It was like 20 feet away. She got going, just went
panic, steers right into it, and just smokes this stump, caves the rad in like 2 feet. There's rad fluid everywhere. The guy who owned it starts freaking out. He like grabs the girl out of the car, and then he starts punching the car and kicking it. This car's trash. Like, nice Beamer. And we're all sitting there like, are we gonna have to break this up a little bit? Like, he's losing his mind on her, and she's screaming like drunk, throwing shit at him, and we're in the middle of nowhere out in the bush. It was a
Well, I remember one of his buddies came over and saw us and was just like, oh, yeah, they do this all the time. It's okay.
He was like apologizing for them. He's like, oh, yeah, no big deal, right? Guy's just kicking in the hood of his Beamer, like standing on the hood of it, jumping on it, mad at the thing, right?
Well, then he asked, so is it good to drive, right? And you're like, well, there's
no rad fluid, bro.
The next morning, we see him get in the thing and peel it out down this like whooped out sand track.
Wide open, off the rev limiter.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Was it on the beach?
No, we were up top.
Yeah.
Remember where we parked the first kook trip? Was that the first kook trip we did?
Yeah.
Yeah, like up on top of the
by
lid.
the,
And then
by
there's like
the
this
sand track.
Mm.
Oh, the first. Oh no,
Yeah.
sorry,
Closer
off
to-
the cliff.
Yeah, off the cliff. Yeah, the big cliff. We walked down to go to the jet ski.
There's stumps.
There's
up
stumps
top?
all over the place.
Well,
Well, we
somebody's
parked
chopping down trees.
like more to the south.
Oh, okay.
We were pretty far down from the boat ramp, if I
Yeah.
remember. It
Yeah.
was a couple clicks, right? Because when we left, you guys rode the skis up to the boat ramp, and we
that's
drove the
right.
motorhome down there to pick it up.
Yeah, that was a fun trip though. That was a good one.
Kook trips are usually good.
That was a
Yeah.
3-4 day bender, no doubt. That was a rough one.
Oh, then we went downhill mountain biking at Fernie.
Yeah, no brakes, everything
Oh yeah, the brakes
else.
were terrible.
Bike rentals at
Well,
a ski resort are
As
a terrible idea.
the lifty said, it's you either use the brakes or you don't use the brakes, man.
He's like, don't, like the brakes are fading, bro. We went to go get like new bikes. He's like, just don't use the brakes.
Yeah.
Like what? We're going downhill.
Oh, there was so much air in the lines, and like you had to pump them. Like anytime you hit the chunder on a downhill mountain bike trail, it would like the chunder would cause the bubbles to come up, and you'd have no brakes at all. And we're trying to send it. We're all like half hung over. It's dusty, moon dust everywhere, and these bikes have like no brakes, and just sending it down the hill like after 3 days of drinking and kook, like sunburn. terrible idea.
I had a blast. That was like my first
good.
downhill.
Todd was
experience.
sending it, but when does Todd not
Todd's
send it?
always
Todd's always
sending it.
sending
it.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Solid
I think you're the
tool.
only one who made use of the insurance on the bike. Yeah, had a
I
broken derailleur.
Oh no, it was the
flat
last
tires.
last run of the day. I busted the derailleur. I think I snapped a chain, or someone else snapped a chain.
No, that's right. We did blow through a few things
Yeah.
on those that day.
I feel like we got separated. I think I was with Todd, and we like ended up going down a trail on the wrong way, and we had to pedal the DH bikes across the
Oh,
resort.
I
It
did
was
that too. Yeah, we
terrible.
did that a couple times too.
I don't know. Yeah, I was with one of you guys. We
Yeah.
split off, and there was 2, and the rest of the group was somewhere else. And yeah, that was a rough one. Expensive too. It was like almost.
Man.
Wasn't like almost $200 for a pass and a bike rental.
Yeah,
for
I think it
the
was
day?
over
Yeah.
$400 for me and Dom to go.
Yeah,
for the day.
that
It
was
insane.
not cheap
yeah.
for subpar trails and shitty bikes.
Yeah.
But we got her done. We had
Yeah.
a good time.
Yeah, we should do that Revelstoke one again.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, that'd
that
be
was
sick.
We did that one last fall.
Last fall, yeah,
Yeah, we should do that.
that was sick.
It was fun. It's like a 7. You do the gondola.
Yeah,
then
you did the
like
7 summits, right?
Yeah, 7K pedal up, and then 14 or 15K down.
It's like 15K trail.
That's
Sweet. It was
sick.
good. It was
How was
so
the
fun.
arm pump?
Wasn't bad. Well, we were with some girls, so we are kind of taking
Oh,
it
you're
easy.
taking your time. You weren't
Yeah.
sending it. Yeah.
but it's super flowy. Like they did a good job building it.
Yeah, super wide trail too.
Oh, so
bermy.
like bike parkish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
In parts, but there's some like single or track stuff too.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Over 15K, they got like a little bit of real estate to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Hell yeah.
That was a fun one.
All right, you guys want to do this? These questions? Or what?
Yeah, I can't figure out how to get it on here.
Let's do it on this.
Yeah.
Questions.
The question. Okay. I don't know how to drive it. But.
Alrighty. So, how are we doing this first? Eddie first here?
Sure.
Eddie
Let's
answer
do it.
first. Okay, you late nights or early mornings?
Early morning, for sure. I'm
early
checked out after 3 p.m. I'm chilling out, feet up.
I think we got the majority was for early mornings, motocross
There we go.
racers.
Yep.
Jared Kaelin, early mornings, late nights?
I like both, but I like the feeling of early mornings better. Like I love staying up late and hanging out with the boys or whatever, but getting up early in the morning feels so much better.
I like early mornings, but I got more jam in the afternoons.
I'm opposite. I've seen Jared punch in more Zwift rides at 4 a.m. than anybody else I have on Strava, so he's definitely a morning person.
All right, steak spice or steak sauce?
I feel like I should say spice because it's healthier, but like let's be real, it's probably sauce, right? Like everybody
Steak
likes
sauce,
the
yeah.
sauce.
I'm going
for
steak
sure.
sauce.
You guys are
Yeah.
all sauce guys, eh?
That
Quality
the-
steak though is pretty good. Like you can't fuck
Quality
up a good
steak
steak with
doesn't need-
sauce.
Have you tried the
Yeah,
Primal
yeah.
Kitchen steak sauce?
No, I
it's
haven't.
Fucking good.
Yeah,
Really good.
yeah. You just I don't know. There's on the south side of Edmonton. It's called Real Deal Meats, and it's all like grass fed, free range stuff. So good.
Southside of Edmonton?
Yeah,
Let's
so
check that out
good.
next time up in
So
the
good.
neighborhood.
Majority of people like steak spice, so you're
There
all
we go.
weirdos.
Montreal, I guess. I guess Montreal's the go-to.
Yeah.
Yeah, steak spice good too, I guess. I don't know.
I mix it up. I usually every time we make steak, we do 3 steaks. I do 1 steak spice, or 1 with Montreal, 1 with the Alberta steak spice, and 1 with cayenne pepper and steak sauce.
I feel like if we weren't racers and we like actually marinated it in the spice and everything, it would probably be good. But we're
Yeah.
usually like, grab it out of the freezer, throw it in the
Yeah.
defroster, and straight on the barbecue
Make it
after
quick.
photos, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, listening to music here, vinyl or CD?
I've never actually been able to appreciate vinyl.
No.
Vinyl all day long. Got the vinyls upstairs.
Well,
Yeah, I have like 1 CD still, and that's it. I don't think I've ever listened to vinyl, so I'm a little out of
Chris
date
is
on
definitely
this.
vinyl.
split down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. What do we got here? Skiing or mountain biking? If you had to choose one for the rest.
Skiing.
2 wheels, mountain biking for
wheels.
sure.
The same way. 2 wheels.
Yeah.
I don't want to be cold.
I just
don't
got
have to
into
be.
cross country skiing this winter, and it's pretty good, but it's just I don't know. It's just not. I don't know. There's something about 2 wheels that's just like at ease for me.
I'm a backcountry guy.
Maybe I'll change my mind once we get the split board going this
Yeah.
winter.
New
You
split
and
board
John
you got.
Moff have done some serious trips in Brad, out there in
Oh,
the
yeah.
Toolies.
Yeah. Lots of trekking.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if Brad would be the first person I'd want to go into the backcountry with, but I'd pick Sean for sure. I mean, Brad would be good to like have on the tail end, keep that optimism going.
No, Brad was always good, but I've seen him do some questionable stuff lately that I don't know.
Lately, just lately, that's it.
I don't know. He took his farming buddy out backcountry
Oh,
skiing.
They
Like,
went
"Well, what
snow
are you-"
biking.
I'm like,
and-
what are you doing, man?
Brad sends it all the time.
Yeah,
For
he
those who
does.
don't know, relentless pursuit. Brad, keep going, bud. We love you.
Yeah, I think the motocross community here spoke overwhelming majority mountain biking, 2 wheels. Yeah. You gonna watch hockey or football?
Hockey.
Probably neither.
Yeah, same, but probably hockey if I had to watch
Hockey.
one.
Yeah, Canadians all said hockey. Movie theater or home theater?
Ooh, I do like movie theaters.
Yeah, get the base.
I'm all about that home theater.
Yeah, I like the movie theater. It's good. Shut your phone off, go away, zone out. I feel like I'm at home. I got too many distractions, and then I just end up eating a bunch of junk food.
Yeah. If I could bring my own snacks and stuff to the movie theater, I'd be more involved.
Can just sneak
I
it
get,
in.
I have, but it's just a pain in the ass. Like, do I really want to go pay $22 to go see a movie? Not really.
Have someone kicking you in the chair behind you.
You got to get on the scene
True.
points, man.
What's that?
The scene points.
Oh yeah, the scene. What was the
Everybody said home theater pretty much. A few people like movie theater.
It's just nice to get out and do something sometimes.
Yeah,
that's
all.
great. Like I hate spending the money on it for sure, but
as a once in a while.
Yeah, I want it to be like a full movie experience.
Actually, have you been to the VIP theaters? They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
You want to talk about expensive?
Oh yeah. It's cool.
It's kind of nice to be able to have a drink and
recliner and shit. Yeah,
we built the one over here twice.
Twice. So
you
screwed it up the first time? Is that job security or what?
It burnt down before it opened.
Built it a second time.
all the projects in the future, they all got built twice.
I hope he came in under budget and under time frame too in the second build.
I don't know, man. Insurance money paid for it.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Cost plus. Drag that out.
Yeah. We got Monster or Rockstar.
I don't think I've drank in either of them.
I'm not drinking either, but I'm going Monster just because I can't stand the Rockstar posts all the time. Like, I'm out here halfway through my moto drinking an OG. No, you're not.
Halfway through the Bet Methods podcast, sipping an OG Rockstar.
Sipping an OG Aha bubbly.
Yeah.
It's Moto Monday. My Rockstar's really helping. Yeah.
Here we go. Another one that you guys will be into: Coke or Pepsi.
I'll go with Coke because they have the Coke Stevia. Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, Coke's good.
Yeah, I don't know. My dad was always a Pepsi guy, but I don't know. Never really got into pop. I guess I'd go Coke though for sure if I had to.
Vanilla Coke.
Yeah, that's literally was on the tip of my tongue. Vanilla Coke.
Yeah, Vanilla Coke's a shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Most people wanted Coke.
Medium boy shout out on the Vanilla Coke.
All right, here's one of the best. Dylan, you first. Who is more likely to get a dad bod first, Kaelin or Jared?
For sure, Kaelin. 100%. Jared's a freak of nature.
The whole time I was reading that question, the first thing I thought is gonna get. Keelan's got one.
Jab, jab.
No, he's looking lean.
I'm buff as shit right now. My calf game's on point.
What did the people vote?
Ride the road
The
bike
people spoke. It was Kaelin.
What are the votes?
36-13.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, overwhelming.
Jeez.
You guys all fucking suck.
Better hit the gym.
Keelan's like, all right, never mind. I'm going vegan when I'm done racing.
Oh, shit.
That's good.
All right, is that it?
That was it.
You guys want to talk about anything else, or are you good to go? I think we covered a lot. That's a good podcast.
I'm ready to watch some Supercross.
Yeah, some SX.
There's 3 more nudes upstairs that need to be drank, and
all right.
We'll be on our way. Thanks for having. Thank you guys for having me.
You guys you're really good. You did a really good job.
Well, we'll have to do it again sometime. Maybe we'll do a part 2, or we'll get somebody else in, and we'll. We need to get John Moffenbauer in here. He's got some stories. Couple drinks in him, some wine. He'd be a good.
Loosen
guy.
him up.
Yeah, it'd be fun to do like a post season. Like
he definitely needs some drinks to get.
He's so reserved all the time.
Yeah,
right?
he's so proper, but you get like a couple drinks in him, he might start talking.
Oh, I've seen the guy with a few drinks in him.
We've all seen. He's from Swift Current. The guy knows how to drink.
All right, thanks, Chris. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Yep.